Give me a few minutes here, y'all. I'll be right here, right back. Listen to the music for now. All right, happy Luminalia, everyone. Yes, I am starting early for this one. They're usually I start a little bit later, but the reason why I'm starting it today a little early is because I'm not going to be doing a gameplay stream, but my traditional office hours. And usually it's around 9 p.m. for office hours, but I've been starting earlier for this week just because. But this is a slightly different thing, more of a talk show. Kind of hang out and talk. I'm doing a little earlier because my a lot of my European folks, a lot of people who like to watch this in Europe, are asleep by the time this usually goes live. So I wanted to do a little bit earlier for the rest of y'all. It's also very, very cold in Texas right now. So I can't guarantee I will even have power at the end of tonight, let alone be able to stream. So, all right, let's get to the office, shall we? Hello and welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley. Very pale for some reason. I think my cam got reset again. Figure video. Yep, it got reset. Go. About right. This is a live stream, not a video. YouTube's lying to you. But yeah, this is a live stream we do on Thursdays, usually at around 9 p.m. Eastern. You can come join us, where we talk live, just kind of a talk out, hang out, talk show. We kind of shoot the shit about Star Citizen, talk about everything from lore to news, events, all sorts of things. So we'll be kind of doing a little bit of a year in review recap. We've got another one we'll do next Thursday. But I figured this would be a good time to kind of reflect a little bit, especially since it is Luminalia. Happy Luminalia, everybody. An in-fiction universe, an in-universe fiction that is, how to put it, is all about coming together for capitalism. But it's also a nice little in-fiction universe kind of in-fiction holiday in the in-fiction universe that focuses on, you know, non-denominational. So it's a nice little thing to celebrate. I'm in upstate New York. We were 9 degrees this morning. Yeah, I heard it's pretty bad. But you know it's bad in Texas when we're going to have, you know, 20 degrees Celsius by noon. So it's already like incredibly cold here. Full temperature right now. Oh no, it's not too bad. It's only 54. Oh, we get 20 degrees Celsius by tonight. We reach past freezing at about 4 p.m. And while New York, yes, I'm sure all of you in the north are very cold. Y'all are prepared for it. We do not have the concept of preparedness here in Texas. So, yeah, last group was nice. Questions, do I need questions to be prefaced in this way? It helps. It helps me pull it out, but no, you can just ask. Just make sure I know it's a question you're answering. I'm going to try to go through everyone, though. Kachu for change. How you doing, Paul? Doing good, Ionic. Yeah, well, I figured I'd do it early for y'all, all of y'all in Europe, where it's, you know, just now freaking 6 p.m. You listen to all doing deliveries? Nah, there we go. 4 a.m. in Australia. Yeah, usually I'm okay with us. Like my normal time is great for Australians. It's not too good for everybody else. That is true. My cousin in Texas, and he always talks about how everyone goes into a panic when there's a few inches of snow. It's snowflakes. People get into a panic down here. Oh God, it's gonna be 30 degrees here today. Yeah. That desert town does not do you guys. That desert town that doesn't give us any favors, that's for sure, yeah. 7:37 p.m. there, yeah, so it's nice and late for most of y'all. But it is Luminalia, and to celebrate Luminalia, we're doing two things. Number one, I've already got a video up for Luminalia. It should be up in the next few minutes, if not already, for the lore of Luminalia, so for you to check out. I always do, well, I did a video on Luminalia in 2020, and it still did bad compared to my normal videos. It's still doing bad compared to my normal videos because I didn't know how to do thumbnails and a lot of other things. So instead of trying to fix that one, I figured, you know what, I'll do a nice dedicated video because it wasn't just a Luminalia video, it was a Luminalia and Traveler's Day video. So I kind of spruced it up a little bit, got a little bit more of the lore, got a little bit of stuff in game, and made it a little bit more in depth. So you're waiting on your second nor'eastern, starting today, going into Saturday. Oof. But then tomorrow we're going to be doing a gameplay stream. We'll be playing 318, and we will be all festive and jolly, and we'll be giving away a shit ton of stuff. I will say, if you watch that Luminalia video, you should pay attention towards the end. There's a very special thing you should be know about at the end. So you should watch that Luminalia video, all I'm saying. And you should join us tomorrow at around 6 p.m. Eastern. No, not 6 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern. So. What's the story for 2023, you ask? Probably the same, full of broken promises. I mean, Matt Black, I'm not to attack you specifically, but I hate that term. CIG broke promises, because like every time CIG says something, people are like, it's a promise, put it on the promise board. It's like, CIG didn't break any promises. They told us back in May that it was going to be a long road, that they didn't know when 318 was going to really come out. They hoped it was going to come out at a certain time. And it took them longer than they thought. But I just hate that term where people are like, oh, CIG promised. CIG didn't promise shit. It just, people got their own hype up and then got hurt by the fact that they hyped themselves. I think that's probably my biggest critique of CIG this year is they're doing better. Every year they do better. This year they did much better, but I don't think they reined in communication and expectations for 318 very well. You can see that with things like the communications about what the actual extent of cargo refactor was. You can see that with a lot of people's expectations for salvage. You can see that for like CIG's communication about specific aspects of patches, for sure. How's 318 performing so far? Been out of the loop for the past week. It's good. The performance is solid. For Wave 1 PTU, it's probably one of the best Wave 1 PTUs out there. The actual performance in terms of FPS hasn't changed much. I think maybe in-game a little bit, but not much at all. And they haven't even started optimizing it. So that's good. In terms of servers, there are some issues with 30Ks and some other issues. There's some wonky problems and bugs with like desync. Like desync is out of control bad. Desync is terrible this patch. But other than that, it's not too bad. There were some major issues with inventory, which still pop up here and there, but it's a lot better than when it was released on Monday. But it's a good solid foundation. It feels like a good solid foundation where we're going to see a lot of improvement over the year. Put it maybe this way. I played it for 3 days. I have yet to accomplish everything that this patch adds in 3 days. It would likely take you several days, full, like 6 to 8 hours of play to actually get through everything you can do this patch that's new. It's that much content. It is bonkers amounts of content. Like, there are 30 new outposts. Each outpost is unique compared to the previous ones. There's no copy pasta. They're all new outposts in locations in places like Daymar, in places like Yella, in places like Hurston. So it's kind of nuts how much stuff there is. They should make desync and Star Citizen a boy brand at Microtech. I agree with that. People seem to not as fraud over 30Ks as they used to be. Well, no, the desync is the reason why desync's being ignored by CIG is because the team that's making a PES and server meshing is also the team that's going to be tackling desync, and there is no priority for desync compared to those two. So, like, desync might get a little bit better because if it gets so bad that it's literally unplayable, they'll pull them off the server meshing team to actually fix a little bit of it, to try to improve, like, optimize it a little bit. But we're not going to see server desync get much better at all. In fact, it'll probably get worse over the next couple of patches, at least until 4.0 is out the door. Once 4.0 is out the door, then I expect them to tackle desync. Yeah, that's the biggest issue, is like everything is delayed. Everything is super delayed. You do something, you have to wait like 5-10 minutes for it to actually happen, and then you'll be able to do it. In terms of like pulling anything from the back end, storing anything, that kind of stuff. COVID had a huge impact that I'm sure CIG doesn't admit, but the reality is that CIG is slow. They're slow, but they complete the stuff eventually. It just takes them a longer time than they themselves like to admit. Hey, Phantom. Hey, Valkyr. There's no point in working on desync or netcode until the network framework is created, i.e. server meshing. Basically, I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. It's just frustrating when you're playing the game and, you know, people are buying the game to play it, and the desync is that bad. You have to be like, oh yeah, we have to wait until server meshing is in, and it's likely that server meshing is not going to be coming into the game until 2024. Like, man, I wish I am wrong on this case. I really, really hope that I'm wrong. But honestly, at this point, with how complicated, because here's the thing about 318, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when we go into later. But 318, I think, is a harbinger for what to expect with 4.0. And 318, while it isn't terrible, meaning you crash the desktop every 5 minutes or whatever, which has happened before in Wave 1s, it's still really bad. There are still many problems. There's no way this would have made it to live on Friday without massive issues. And when I hear people say, oh, well, they're going to come back in January and fix it, this is going to require at least a month in open PTU before it's ready to go. Because there's tons of little issues, tiny little problems, which can't even be addressed until the big problems are dealt with. So things like, performance improving in terms of being able to claim on your ship and it fucking comes, and actually claims. Doesn't take, me going to do my laundry and coming back before it's finished, sort of thing. So they got to tackle those big issues, which are achievable and just takes time and effort, before they can get to the small issues. And those small issues can also be tackled. But again, it requires one dev like 12, 13 hours to get it fixed. That dev's not available. And then on top of that, January is the month where they have the most weird times because people go off to do summit meetings. So they're going to go off and do other things to talk about the priorities that they're going to set forth for the next year. They set up, okay, this is what we're planning on getting done. This is what we did last year. This is what we want to do this year. Going forward, these are the priorities. And with a team of 800 people, that's just what you got to do across several continents. Once that's done, though, they get back to it and get working. So as a result, January is probably going to get us to wave all PTU if we don't get at that before the holidays, which it doesn't look like we're going to. So we'll get wave 1 through the holidays, maybe wave 2 after they get back, and maybe open to everyone like mid to late January, and then expect it until February, end of February, March. Beginning of March before it's actually released. Just, that's the reality. And if that's the case, 4.0 is going to take as long, even if it's half as complicated as 3.18, because you also got to remember 4.0 is not just 4.0, it's Pyro and a bunch of other things that'll be added that we don't know about yet. Then we'll expect the same amount of time, at least a month, almost 2 months in PTU. And CIG even said this back in May. That this is what they're expecting. It's just going to take a long time. So setting expectations properly, I'm still taking shit for it for saying this, but I wouldn't expect 3.18 to come out until March, and as a result, likely delay everything else about a year or two out. Which sucks because okay, 4.0 is coming out. If it comes out in quarter 1 of 2024, that's great. That means they're not going to get desync fixed until December of 2024. So it's like, oh yeah, cool. We got 2 years of garbage desync to deal with. Don't you think that things like Unreal 5 engine, they will take too long to burn themselves out against the a mate that is moving to ray tracing nanite and such engines that on such engines that Gammo, if they switched over to Unreal 5, you would see another 20 years of development because they'd have to import everything over there. All of the developers would have to learn Unreal to be able to function. The reality is that Unreal 5 would have been nice, but it wasn't available in 2012. So they have what they have, and they have their own engine team. So their own engine team is doing pretty good jobs, especially when you see the optimizations. A lot of those people are the people who developed the original CryEngine. So by the time Star Citizen's released, it'll have its own custom engine. So there would be no point in having ray tracing and those sorts of things will be included in Star Citizen at some point. The issue is it's just not a priority as of this moment. Desless, who actually made this background, by the way, I think in Blender, but says, as an active UE dev, Nanite and all that fancy stuff you saw is still far away from being production ready. It's also important to remember that UE 5 videos you see are great, but those are not video games. Those are demos. So they can heavily reduce the need for everything else other than graphic fidelity, and it makes it look fucking amazing. But when you actually see some of the first UE5 games, they're going to look nothing like the demos you saw because they're not pre-rendered videos, effectively, 3D videos. So UE5's a great option. It's good for not just video games, but for video production. I think Disney uses it for, they use it for Mandalorian, and I'm sure they'll be using it for other projects as well to do kind of projection backgrounds. So you don't have to do as much post-processing. You don't have to send it off to an, you don't have to do it on green screen and have everyone do it. You can just do it on kind of a rear projection to kind of make it look right, to reduce that load. That's fantastic use of the engine. But video games are always going to be a little weird for that. Hey, Drakon, yeah. I wanted to do it early because this is, every so often when I don't have work, I like to do early streams simply because it helps out those people who live in Europe. So. It began VFX in about 15 years. Yeah, it'd probably be pretty good. Sorry, my grammar. Yeah, I understand. Thanks, Teslas. Yeah, I'm an artist myself and mainly using Maya. Yeah, okay, cool. Outside of tech demos, have we seen anything approaching the scale of Stanton and Unreal yet? Seamless transition from space to planets to map size of Stanton? No, but I don't think many people care. Like, think about Starfield. I'm looking forward to Starfield. I'm going to be playing Starfield. I'll be covering and have been covering Starfield. I'm going to do a video over this next couple of weeks that just talks about what we know about Starfield, what we expect about Starfield, and so on and so forth. So to keep on this channel, to keep you all informed, as well as doing lore channels and other stuff on the other one. But the thing about Starfield is that they already said that they're not going to worry about seamless space to ground content. They're just going to worry about space combat in space. They're going to worry about ground combat on ground. Ground exploration, space exploration are two separate entities, and you just see a cutscene. Effectively, what you see with Starfield is what Squadron 42 would have been in terms of its technology if it was released in 2016. So, and it will look dated comparison to other games, but it'll have a pretty big scope. Its maps are probably going to be pretty big and all that kind of stuff. Gotcha. You're homesick. Oh, are you off at family or you're off working there, Drakon? Hey, Revan. I wouldn't expect Starfield to release until March. So, I mean, if yeah, it makes sense. 3.18 getting released around that time would be good. With 3.18 finally cemented, the future work will have less issues or quicker fixes with new framework of the background. Or am I nuts? You're not nuts. That's about right. A lot of the stuff that has been holding Star Citizen back is implementation of basic foundation technology. And as always, whenever I say that, someone makes some meme lord goes, herder, 10 years, still basic technology. And it's like, yeah, that's video game development, my dudes. Because that's video game development, my dudes. Starfield will prove to you why Star Citizen is only one in its kind in its business. Yeah, because Star Citizen is not profitable. You're not going to make CIG is absolutely never going to turn a massive profit on Star Citizen. Like if they turn a profit now, it's barely. People like the clickbait titles, $500 million, no 10 years, no game in sight. Yeah, but you don't add in the 800 employees scattered over 2 different continents, plus at least one contract developer, which we don't know if that's added into that 800 employees, with a goal of increasing their main facility in Manchester to 1,500 employees before the end of 2025. In 2 years, they want to increase that studio alone to over 1,500 employees. All right? That does not, $500 million does not pay for those people's salaries. My camera seems a little off still. I don't know what's going on. It's a little better. That's about right. That's what I'm seeing on my camera, at least. So it's nuts. Yeah. It's a catch-22 that a game is playable. The fact that CIG has to rework so much stuff they had to cobble together to make the game playable as alpha uses so much time. But it also is how they fund the game. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. At least the game gets made. Yeah, on the other hand as well, it also gets them feedback. So if they build something, if this takes 6 months to build something and the players are like, this is hot garbage, take it the fuck out, CIG can do that, which is nice. It extends the development time, but it means that you don't release a broken product. It means you release a product that people will enjoy. Yeah, hover mode's a great example of that. And then they've gone to another thing. And I think hover mode is still going to be included. And you kind of already see it with like how atmospheric flight changes your profile of how you fly. They'll probably change that up even more as like in terms of like thruster vectors when we get into things like the next big tech, which is the secret tech, which is probably the most important thing for next year, is resource management. Resource management is the next big aspect of the game because it touches everything in the game. Every type of career, all parts of the game require resource management. It is a fundamental aspect of the game which will be added next year. It allows for things like engineering, for sorry, my nose is all itchy. Multi-crew gameplay. It allows for ships to be more for the dynamic damage system, for the remove from HP pools to your components, which will allow for more in-depth salvage, which will allow for repair, which will allow for things like your suits becoming more complicated. It'll allow for things like stations and bases to have their own resource allocations. So things like mining bases will have to have power to be able to run their drills, but they also have to have power to run their HABs. So they're going to have enough power to do that, which will need to be used. Say if you're using batteries, or components, those will need to be fixed and maintained or replaced. Plus, you may also need things like solar panels, which will be fixed, maintained, and replaced. All of these things adds a huge number of things to the game. So the question, when do you think ArcCorp will get its clouds? After they do a full rework of ArcCorp, which is nowhere near on the cards. I would say after Loreville 2.0 is done. Counterpoint, the most important thing next year is getting the Sand Cave buggos moving around. I agree. That's also going to be a thing that's going to be in there. The Aurora should have something of of a hover mode with the VTOL turbofans. It might be possible to fly like a helicopter in Atmo and use any thruster fuel. It should, but I don't know if those turbofans even work anymore, if they're just aesthetic. Yeah, they won't add the VTOL to the Aurora until they probably do a rework of the Aurora. That would be the other thing I would expect next year, is at least a first look in at replacing the starter ships. So I don't think we'll see a gold pass of the Aurora and the Mustang, but I think we'll see them added to the progress tracker, where the Aurora, the Mustang, the 100i, the Reliant, all of them will go through and get a bunch of stuff added that they didn't have when they were first released, and also changed over. Like, I think the Aurora will probably get bigger, taller, and fatter, just because it needs more space for animations and such. It will also likely also get more of its mounts added, things like storage added to it. Same with the Alpha. The Mustang Alpha will probably get exterior storage added to it. Like little panels you can put like guns and stuff in. So the Aurora doesn't have its VTOL. I hope the Aurora rework adds physicalized components. They all will. They all have to have physicalized components in the future. So, and the reason why I think it'll be next year where we start to see the process, if not see the process completed, is because CIG is already working on the new player experience, which is the other big thing they'll be adding next year, at least hopefully. A lot of this stuff is hopefully, because CIG is very bad at giving us expectations, or in terms of when these things are, like, kind of even their own estimates of when these things are going to be released. Yes, Michael Pease on YouTube. There are 54 people watching on YouTube, and there should be 54 likes on YouTube if you're enjoying this. If you've watched me for more than a few minutes and you haven't liked the video, like the video. Can you buy another chat around? Did you already do so? But I'll do this anyways. Here we go. In the spirit of giving, all of you get free gifts. But I noticed they added storage to the Buck. Did they add exterior storage, or did they add like a little panel that you can get access to? Second to the question, is Lorville 2.0 in 318? No, but it might be in 319. Sounds like they're pretty close, so. Handlebar pick. I want the handlebar pick picture. I want it to be an in-game physical art piece, CIG. It's a panel at the lander. Okay. That makes sense. They didn't add panels, but if you interact with the ladder, it has access storage option. Okay, nice. The Aurora has the same kind of VTOL that the Connie does. They use turbo fans. The good, they only require electricity to run. The bad, they only work in dense enough atmosphere to produce lift. Yeah, they also have little rockets on the end of those fans, so it's not just turbo fans; it's also rockets. So there are like thrusters on those fans if you look at them closely. So they can do work in both effectively. What do you have to expect in 319 specifically to have? Okay, so specifically, I expect 319 to have the new movement system that they mentioned in the last monthly report. So the movement system from Squadron 42. The whole like being able to stop on a ladder and turn and jump and like have more like inertia momentum moving back and forth. I expect the new updates to Arena Commander and Star Marine and like that kind of stuff. More racing maps to be added in 319 because it's just very easy for them to do that. Very easy. And nothing is easy, but in context, it's easy. Let's see, what else would they be adding? Almost certainly additions to PES. A new event of some type. And that's about it that I'm sure of. Those things would be the ones that I expect. There may also be things like elements of in the resource system. I don't expect the resource system to be done, but I expect elements of it to be done and in the game. Vulcan may be done by then as well, because they seem to think that Vulcan is as the API would be pretty simple to implement over the course of a sprint, maybe the end of the year, but they seem to be pretty confident in getting it done. So that I expect to see a ton of quality of life improvements. Like they're going to go over ship like production with a fine-tooth comb after everything. So yeah, we're supposed to get FPS sliding at some point. I don't know if that's still in the cards, but I'd like it to be. 319 release date next summer. That's that's honestly my expectation. Is 319 is not going to come out until June. It'll be the Invictus patch. Vehicle tractor beam. Yeah, I could see that in 319. I might not. That's more of a I don't know. We're almost certainly going to get tractor beams next year in some way, shape, or form beyond what we have now for like vehicles and like the big version and the SRV. But it's hard to tell exactly when that is because it may require other elements to the game which are not done yet. So, including things like server meshing or things like resource system. And if both of those aren't done by 319, though 319 is the closest, like we may actually see resource system in 319 if it comes out in the summer, but I'm still iffy on that because they haven't put a hard date on that. We've heard enough of them about them talking about it that it's obviously in production, but we haven't heard so much that we know, okay, this thing is almost done or going to be added. No, we're not going to see master modes. They've even said that they're not going to have master modes. They said the earliest we're going to see master modes is the end of next year. It's nowhere near close to it. Possibly, oh yeah, cargo elevators. They were almost certainly going to see cargo elevators simply because they had it in there. We'll probably see more additions to the quantum system The Quanta stuff, probably just because Tony's been working on that. So wonder how many 318 well, I think we're going to see with 318, at least a 318.1, because my theory is that we'll see 318 release sometime in February, early March. So instead of having a Q1 patch, they're going to just say that's it. And then they're going to give us like a 318.1 or .2 with like an event for the end of March, early April, sometime in March and April. So that then they'll push 319 into Q2. Current work on resource management ends in June. Okay, so if it ends in June, I wouldn't expect it in June. I'd expect it later. But it could be entirely wrong, because as Jake always says, when a sprint ends is not necessarily when it releases, or it sometimes can release before that or after that. So almost certainly 319 is going to be the Invictus patch, would be my guess, based off of the way it's currently falling. Plans will probably change with the February roadmap update. According to Jake, their plan is still to have a 319, and I know they're going to do a bunch of stuff with like summits and such, and Jake will probably let us know in February. But almost certainly, I think 319 is a good plan, and I think CIG is going to stick with the plan of 319 simply because it gives them a buffer for 4.0. Because they still need to work out stuff with PES. They still need to add more quality of life stuff. They need a breather. They just basically need something that they can do that's not going to be super pressure, like heavy pressure, while they, to kind of make the game more playable before they get to 4.0 and break everything again. Maybe 318 is ILW. I think 319 is more likely. The other thing is, and this is the thing that's going to get people kind of weirded out, but almost certainly, if 319 is probably going to be the same branch as 318. So it'll be the same. It will be a major patch because it'll be called 319, but it will be the same branch as 318 because it's probably easier for them to just make it in the 318 branch than branch off for 319 right before 4.0 goes out. Because I think CIG has learned from their mistakes. They can do a 318 and then a 319 and then a 320. They can keep doing that until 4.0 comes out. Calling it now, 319 is no earlier than IAE. Exactly. IAE. Wait, IAE? No, not IAE. IAE is November. I'd say ILW. Invictus, almost certainly. In your work hours again? Yes, Jordan. Because I wanted to help so those folks who are in the non-US who can watch. If all goes well, we may see 4.0 by next IAE. I think we'll see 4.0 at the end of next year in terms of what we see here, like a PTU release with a 4.0 planned for early Q1 2024. I'm not going to be super like hard on 4.0 because 4.0 is because it seems like let me just say, Revan, give me your reason why 4.0 is going to be out by. Oh, you're saying by next IE. You're saying by like the end of the year. I do want to see people's thoughts about this because my thought is 4.0. I'll walk you down my primrose path. So this is my expectations for next year. 318 is going to take longer than anyone expects, simply for many different factors. One, the summits are happening, so people are going to be out of the office doing stuff, and they're not going to work while they're at a summit. That would be stupid. They need to focus on the summit for planning. And then when they get back to their offices and go from the plannings to go to the next stage, they'll likely get started really hardcore on the aspects of 318 by mid to late January. Then they're going to have to just go through and deal with a lot of bugs, a lot of problems that have spawned because of 318, because of PES implementation. They'll get to it and they'll knock them down because I don't think they'd be too difficult. These seems like things that have appeared in the past. But you never know. There could definitely be something that pops up being like, what the fuck happened here? And they have to go through an extensive review, look through all of the parts that could happen, and then fix it. So that could happen. If that happens, then all bets are off in terms of when it actually releases. But because of this, I would expect 318 to release sometime in February, most likely March. I think March is a good buffer date for that. Unfortunately, that means that there's not a lot of time between then and Q1. So CIG has two options. Either they can release an anemic Q1 patch, which will be 318 or 319, 318.1 or 319, or they can delay the next patch to Invictus, which I think they're much more likely to do, because Invictus is their second big sale holiday. It's right before the summer holidays, and they can really focus on 319 being a polish pass, a patch which is going to add content, which will make things much better, tighten up the mechanics a little bit here and there, gunplay, the ship-to-ship combat, and they can focus on a new event for, around the same time. So they can do a lot more working with the new framework they have with PES to see what they can really do, really stretch their muscles in terms of being able to expand beyond what they've had before. Really punch PES in the nose and see how many punches it takes before the nose breaks, kind of thing. Because CIG likes doing that. They like really diving into new technology with their teams and just, what can we do with this? And just go nuts with it, which is why the summit's going to be pretty good as well for that sort of thing. So we're going to learn a lot, I think, about gameplay opportunities, new gameplay stuff, new mission types, new events, all those sorts of things will be worked out in that time period. And then once we have that, we're likely going to have a very long summer with maybe 1 or 2 .x patches for either 319 or 318. And then the summer, at the end of the summer, early fall, we're likely to get another patch, like the July, August patch is likely to be a patch. It will either be a 3.19.x patch, which might probably just be called 320, or a 318 or a 319 itself. So have that kind of little balance. And then they'll hit CitizenCon. And the thing to understand about CitizenCon is that CitizenCon, in-person CitizenCons, are incredibly resource intensive. They take devs away for weeks of actual work, and they require them, because it's their little GDC. It's, a nice little thing. So we get to see a lot of cool things which are upcoming, a lot of new ideas, but it's definitely going to take away from development time. It always has, it always will. And as a result, they even say, don't expect the Q4 patch to drop, or Q3 patch to drop on time, because it's supposed to drop in September. It usually drops in October. So I would almost assume that we're not going to get a Q3 patch, or we'll get a .x patch for IAE to get that done, and then 4.0 will be after that. I'm on winter break. As of today, I'm on winter break. So, do you think 4.0 will release? No, I think it'll release into PTU release in Q4 of 2023. But I don't have faith that it'll get done until Q1 of 2024. Also, transition to Gen 12 is Rocky 2. Yeah, not to mention they also need to add API and a bunch of other stuff too. Did Origin switch over making ships only? I always view them as a Rolls-Royce, building luxury vehicles, but building high-end engines for other applications as well. I believe they still make high-end engines for the UE military and yachts, but we just don't know of any custom yacht that exists outside of the Origin stuff. So they just mostly make their money off of personal vehicles now. IA 2953. Yeah, I think we're definitely getting it after that. Would be my impression. Thank you, Astro, from the non-US place person. So 319.2 will definitely be a thing, almost certainly. But again, I don't think we'll see in 319.2. I think we'll more likely see a 320 and a 321. CLG will start working on CitizenCon next month. The planning committee is already doing meetings. Okay, good to know. Do you have a source on that, Kale? But that makes sense. That's the other thing that's kind of off next year, is that CIG never fucking plans CitizenCon. It is always a last minute addition. They've been planning it way ahead of time. This is unprecedented. This means something is going down in CitizenCon. I mean, CIG, here's the thing. Here's the thing, y'all. CIG will learn from its mistakes, and they will never do a .x patch for a major quarterly release again. It's always going to be the next patch number up until you reach 4.0, and then they'll do the same thing with 4.0. And we'll never have an alpha 5.0. Once we have alpha 4.0, the next step is beta. So that, and I know I keep saying that, and people are like blah 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 blah, but like that will come faster than you think, because once 4.0 comes out, the main building blocks for Star Citizen is in place. The last major hurdle, depending on anything, is the dynamic economy and this dynamic server meshing. But dynamic meshing is going to be a lot easier to do than server meshing proper. So, Astro SMR, AstroPub SMR. Squadron 42 announced date. I almost certainly believe it will. Is there any way we can add input to captain's table questions in the future? I mean, sure. Should be able to fix that. There we go. I thought we were in pre-alpha and 4.0 was alpha. No, it's all alpha. It's been alpha since 1.0. Yes, Squadron 42 is offline, as far as I know. Open beta status and then polish and optimization. They said they removed the ability to drop in and drop out co-op for Squadron 42 because they said it didn't make sense for the narrative. They did want to do that as an add-on later. So it'll be a free, likely a free, I hope a free CIG add-on to Squadron 42 after it's already launched to allow your friends to do co-op. Do I think CIG will perform the same transparent development in the next game they do, or have a public scared every dev company away from this type of behind-the-scenes value of the development? No, because CIG makes too much money off of being open development. As much as naysayers will say otherwise, CIG makes a fuck ton of money because of open development. Now, is it enough to be profitable in the way that, say, EA is profitable, or Activision, or Microsoft, or Sony? Hell no. No way. But it is the backbone of their product, is the open development. They do genuinely see the community as an asset to the company, because they know they can rely on the community for not just funds, but testing and feedback, which they can then react to. And also advertising. They leverage us for everything. And I don't think it's a cynical, oh, we're going to leverage them. I think it's they genuinely believe it. So 142 is supposed to be tying into the PU at the end of the endo, isn't it? To a degree, yes, because Squadron 42 takes place in the past. It's supposed to take place starting in 2945. And we don't know how long it takes for the first version, but there are 3 games for Squadron 42. There's Squadron 42, then there's the second game, which is tentatively titled Behind Enemy Lines, and then the last one is untitled yet. So there are 3 games. And we did a kind of an overview. I went into some weird rabbit holes on Sunday. And we looked up a bunch of stuff, and to give you a concept, the shooting script, this is the shooting script, not the written script, the shooting script. So the thing they used to film the scene, so they got all the captures, was like 13 to 1,500 pages long. For context, most shooting scripts are between 100 and 500 pages. For like movies. When all is said and done, what planet what will you start on? Magnus. Magnus forever. It sounds like that shooting script is a cover your ass book. Sort of. You got to understand that Squadron 42 is a branching narrative. So branching narrative games we've seen in the past, they're not complicated in the sense that we understand how they work, but they get complicated as you expand. So a branching narrative means that there will be points in the game where if you make a decision, that decision will fundamentally change how the gameplay goes forward. Now, the uniqueness of Squadron 42 compared to other games is that CIG seems to have written the game to always have the same ending, no matter what. The game's going to end the same way, whether you played it, the first time or the millionth time, or no matter who you are, the game will have the same ending. What matters is who's with you at the end. Who and what remains is what the big takeaway is going to be. So, as a result, you will have plenty of playthroughs where you want to ensure that this person survives. And it's not obvious either. It's not going to be obvious who you save and who you don't, or what ships will survive and what won't, and those sorts of things. And as a result, you have to shoot the same scene like 7 times because you have to account for all of the times that player chose the wrong option that you wanted them to. Dialogue branches change, and that's the problem. That's why you have to have such a large shooting script. But even then, it should be double the length of a typical script of like 200, 100 to 300 pages, not like 4 times the length of that. Which is why they broke it up into 3 different games, because Aaron Roberts, when he came in, was just like, this is fucking bonkers. We're not doing this. And that's changed, so. Is your character from Odyssia or Newcastle on Berea? Probably Odyssia, not Newcastle. Odyssia is the capital, isn't it? Newcastle is the place where Drake is headquartered, though. But Odyssea's been shut down for a long time. Do you have a prediction on the full release, or is it too early to ask? For Star Citizen or Squadron 42? For Star Citizen, it's up in the air. Because the reality is that Star Citizen is going to release, likely, at beta. What I mean is I think that CIG is going to release as a soft launch. And I'm going to reiterate, because people always say, when I say these sorts of things, it's like, you work for CIG? I do not work for CIG. But the likelihood is that CIG will soft launch the game. And what I mean by soft launch is they won't have the game finished, but they will stop, like, all of the content, the gameplay content will not be in, the gameplay, how to sort this. The gameplay itself will be done. It'll be feature complete, but not content complete, if that makes sense. The features will be in. Everything you can do, you should be able to be done in beta. And at a certain stage, they'll just say, we are no longer going to wipe. At that stage, it's effectively released. But they still, have the option to wipe if something drastically wrong happens. And then they'll release a release at some point in the near future when they have the full 100 systems and all that kind of thing. But as a result, that puts a lot of pressure off of them to release the game, because you have games like, what is it? Warframe. I believe Warframe's still in beta. No one treats it like it's in beta, because it's not in beta, it's been released. But they still keep it in beta so they can keep that kind of, they've said, I think the devs have said at one point that they will, when they release the game, they will stop making it. Kind of thing. There'll be one final grand wipe at the end of beta, I thought. Yes, and that's what I mean. I think it'll still be in beta. They'll wipe it, they'll still be in beta, and then they'll say this is the last wipe, but it'll still be in beta. I think that's more likely the outcome of release. So that, I could guess 2025 or 2026. So the next 3 years would be that. Full release, I couldn't tell you. possibly 10 more years for that full release. Just because the features are easier for them to make than the content is. And they can still make the content pretty fast, and I'm sure they'll get to the point where they can chunk it out pretty quickly. The problem is the content needs to be dense. It needs to be fulfilling. It needs to be intertwined into the universe. It needs to have mission givers. It needs to have a purpose beyond just being another planet in the system, or another system, more planets, more shit to do. Because a lot of that stuff is going to be decided by the dynamic mission system, which will be added into it. And that's probably going to be the slowdown. But who knows? CIG wants to hire 1,500 people at Manchester alone. They're going to build new studios in Austin and LA, almost certainly, in the next couple of years, simply because they have too many people working in Austin. I know for a fact there are more people who work at Austin than they have space for in the studios. Everyone I've talked to at Austin has said that they have to rotate in there. If they want to go into the office, they have to schedule a time to go into the office. Most of them are still working from home because of that, because they've taken over the entire level of the building they're in, but it's still not enough. So they're likely going to have to build a brand new studio. And my guess is they'll probably build or buy a studio somewhere in Austin, because there's lots of stuff being built in Austin, probably in Central or South Austin. Well, Tyler has his way, it's North Austin, but it'll be up to the developers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, MMO's never fully released, but the thing is that I think in reality, CIG will not have a full release, mostly due to legal and also other issues. So I think it's kind of what Eve did. That would suck even more of wipe it for a few months. Imagine grinding 2 years and then everything gets wiped. It wouldn't be too bad, especially if they did a grand wipe at the end of beta and it released, and it took them 5 years from beta to release. I think that would actually add a lot more flavor to the game, because I think a lot of people would be like, I've been playing this game for 5 years. I could use a new start, I'm in the same way. I think most people are. I don't think people are as attached to their characters or to things they do in video games after a certain amount of time. Sure, there's some people, but I think the majority of people don't care. Look at Tarkov. Tarkov wipes all the time, and people still play it and still enjoy it. Star Citizen will never come out, and that's okay. Star Citizen, as much as people hate the term, is a live service game. It's a game that will, as long as CIG can keep the lights on, they're going to keep making it. It was 2 years between the last big wipe of 3.15? Yeah, it was about a year and a half, almost 2 years. What do you think the hardest star system to implement will be into the game? Honestly, it's hard to tell. Because CIG's already got most of the tech they need for most star systems. I think the hardest stuff they'll need to do is the unique things like Banshee. Banshee is a pulsar. So they're going to have to figure out a way to visually represent a pulsar and in-game represent a pulsar of the high radiation, those sorts of things. But at the same time, that's pyro. That's just pyro. So pyro will probably, a lot of technology goes into pyro, will probably look a lot similar to Banshee, which is the pulsar. So TAMSA will probably be the most interesting. I don't think it'll be too difficult, because I don't think the actual rendering of a black hole in 3D is that difficult, simply because it's been done in so many media. It'll look like the one in Interstellar. It'll look like the one in Elite Dangerous. It's just going to be a black hole. There is one planet. It's a gas giant that's orbiting the black hole. And a bunch of moons too on the planet. I think the Sol system, specifically Earth. Yes, but I think they're going to get away with a lot of stuff on Earth that they wouldn't be able to get away with other places. There's going to be a lot of restricted zones. You're not flying. You're not going to be low flying through Sol. Earth is not going to be. You're going to have a very narrow window of where you can fly and land for Earth. I also expect it to be incredibly populated. There will be tons of traffic in and out, similar to Terra. So, What about from a lore standpoint? Perhaps they mean to release the game fully alongside pivotal moments in lore. Almost certainly they will. I think once they reach beta stage, they'll start adding a little bit more impactful events. Because right now the events are still, they're in lore. Like, for instance, the Invasion of Xenothreat is a lore event, in-lore event. Jumptown is an in-lore event. The Siege of Orison is an in-lore event. These things happened in the game, in the game's lore. Beyond just players participating in them. The Nine Tails Lockdown, again, in-game lore. So every time the event is in the lore. But I don't think we've seen a fundamental change in the lore because of them yet. We have yet to see that. And I think that's what we'll see when it comes to like beta. Theaters of War? I see Warpath. No, it's MANCHACA, but yes. I 100% believe that Theaters of War. I do like the idea, and I don't remember who brought it up. I don't know if it was someone brought it up before, and I think multiple people have mentioned it. I think Theaters of War is a fantastic place to put past events. So if you have an event that was in the game and is in fiction, and you don't want to run it again because it doesn't make sense to run like the 9th Nine Tails Lockdown, like, okay. Nine Tails doesn't even exist, really. Like, they're just the shadow of themselves and compared to. Or the 9th Xenothreat incursion. Like, really? These fuckers are still at it. They don't even own Ruin Station anymore. But if you put them in Theaters of War, they become great little scenarios to run through. So you can play them if you didn't already play them, but in a kind of a private match. So. Yeah, that's the whole concept of Theaters of War. They're all historical events that happened. Like the next mission, which is the first one they're doing, which is Crossroads of Crime, is an event that actually happened in verse. So, Theaters of Lore. I mean, that's kind of what it is. All right, I'll be right back. Yeah, so the person who floated that up, like, that's fucking brilliant. That's a great way of doing that.
Good news, everyone! Good news, everyone!
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Forgot to warn chat. That was gonna happen. It's always gonna happen. All right. I fixed it. Stop it. Stop it, chat. Theaters of Gore. I agree, similar to how Hell Let Loose is using real maps of battles from World War II. Yeah. Mystical events, we won't get Earth until it's been devastated by Vanduul attack. That necessitates that final pivot to Terra in the center of the UE. Maybe. I think we'll probably see it in Squadron. Almost certainly we'll see Earth in Squadron. Theaters of Orison. At least I use my pub coins wisely. No, my Beltalota. If you bought a ship in Star Citizen, you should have an unlocked lifetime for AC until you have the ship. So you sell the ship. Wonder if you could exchange one UEC for 1,000 Arena Commander credits. I think those would be a good idea for the future. Like, honestly, I think next year is also, and this is one of those things, and I'm still, the more and more I think about it, the more I believe it, which is next year is the year that Arena Commander comes back and none of you are prepared for it. Next year is the year of Arena Commander, because they're gonna hit on a bunch of cylinders, and people are gonna be like, where the fuck did this come from? Why are we getting new maps? Theaters of War, I'm almost certain will drop next year. Why? Gen 12, PES, all of the technology is being added. They may be able to make the desync less bad in smaller maps, and with smaller amounts of entities, like a Theaters of War map. According to Star Citizen lore, you will see the first trip to Mars in your lifetime. Probably. We don't actually know 100% when the first trip to Mars happens. I don't believe it is mentioned officially when the first trip to Mars to happen, because they don't really mention Mars until after the quantum drive has been developed, and at that point it's assumed that Mars has already been discovered and landed on, that kind of stuff. So 2007, no. Will we see more Easter eggs within Squadron 42 or the PU? Love to see Serenity or Rocinante. You'll probably see more in the Squadron 42 where they can control it, but you'll see Easter eggs in Star Citizen as well. When it becomes a day trip, I mean, it still takes when the quantum drive is developed, it's still not that efficient, but it's more efficient than rocket engines. They might make it an official date, and it happens in our universe. The year's 2007. Oh, I love that. 1990s. Isn't 2039 or something? No, I'd have to look it up. The Galactopedia would probably be better than... All right, let's look for Mars. So they have the Unification Wars, Marshal Leon, Cathcart, Mars Tragedy, Port Renatus. There's no date on the. This was completed in the 22nd century. So. In Star Citizen lore, did Earth go through a war or some natural disaster that changed its landscape to give CIG lens? I mean, yes. The resource wars were a thing. Well, they called it the overpopulation era, but they had resource wars and other things like that. So, CIG hasn't been super in depth about it, but I'd almost certainly believe that climate change has happened on a global scale in Star Citizen universe, which would drastically change how the Earth looks because of flooding and other things like that. But they haven't really tied into that a little bit very much because they want to make sure that it makes sense with everything else they're doing. But they've only recently given us lore, like literally 3 months ago, they actually gave us lore behind the Unification Wars. Before then, it was only mentioned in a story, the Gift for Baba story, which started written like 2019. So it took them 4 years to get the full Unification Wars lore out. So, as a fellow Texan, are you ready for the cold front? Luckily, Robert, I grew up in. I grew up. I spent several years of my life. I'm about half of my life so far has been in the South, and half of it's been in California. But before I moved to Texas, which was 6 years ago, I lived in Tennessee for an extensive amount of time. So. And in East Tennessee specifically, Middle and East, but East a lot. And it gets very fucking cold in East Tennessee. So I'm used to things like dripping faucets. I'm used to things like ice and learning when to go out and when not to, and milk sandwiches. For those who don't know, milk sandwiches are a thing. You grew up? Yes, I grew up. According to them, it should have phased pulse lasers in 40 megawatt range. Yes. But yeah, next year is going to be a very weird year for development. Just what you see, pal. Yeah. There is that reference in the vertical slice. It's going to be a very weird year next year because I think next year is going to be a lot like what we had this year, but with more stuff. So we're not going to see major, huge things. Like, I don't think we're going to see another major gameplay loop added until 4.0. So not yet next year. But almost certainly we're going to see a shit ton of new missions. We're going to see trading becoming more of an actual thing. We might see repair. I think we might see repair, but repair is not really added because it's added this patch too, because it's kind of already there. For those of you who don't know, repair is the reverse of salvage. So hand repair works. It's just not very functional right now. Yeah, we might see passenger services. That would be a good guess, but I would be a little bit wonky on that one because AI, they're not going to be adding the AI systems that they have built for Squadron into Star Citizen until after 4.0. Vulture can't repair, but your hand's salvage tool can repair. Patching holes, it adds HP to your hull integrity, so it's still repair. It's just like tier 0 repair. Just like salvage is tier 0 salvage. Oh, Vulcan. I thought you said Vulture. You said Vulture. Vulture repair. Did I say Vulcan? I meant Vulture. Vulture is just a salvage ship. Vulcan can repair, but it's not. This is its own concept. Do you think or believe we will ever get to a point where we won't need a ship to make money and get around? Probably not. You're almost certainly always going to have a ship in some way, shape, or form. I mean, you can work on somebody else's ship, but you're going to always need a ship to get around. What the fuck is a milk sandwich? The first YouTube video looks like a joke. Milk sandwiches are a term that's used, at least in Knoxville when I lived there, which was what happens when a snowstorm is about to hit or a cold front's about to hit. Everyone runs out the store and buys milk and bread. And the joke is everyone's got to get their milk sandwiches when it gets cold because that's the only thing that's ever sold out is milk and bread. Because they're afraid of milk going bad because they'll be trapped inside for too long. So they'll either run out of milk or the milk will spoil. And bread, same reason. They'll either spoil or it'll go bad or they run out of it. So, going to HEB, need anything? Yeah, milk and bread. Yeah, that's what we call it in Knoxville. We call it Knoxville milk sandwiches. And toilet paper now, yeah. Ah, Northern is a smart man. He goes for the ramen. See, my genius plan is always to buy frozen foods when it gets cold, because it's like if you have any kind of power, if you're stuck inside, then you have frozen food. If you don't have power, you can just take your frozen foods, throw it outside. Bingo bongo. It's not going to go bad. Never really understood the milk, eggs, bread thing in 2022. I don't either. But, I mean, next Xeno is going to be insane. I'm sure 100% Orange are going to offer repair and refuel services at debris fields. Almost certainly. I don't think we will see another Xeno threat. I'm going to take that. I think CIG has been showing a lot of restraint with Xenothreat. Everything else they've been throwing at us, but not Xenothreat. I think they're either going to completely rework Xenothreat, so we get a new version of it, which is, them coming back, or they're going to retire it and bring something else out. How are you going to heat and cook that frozen food without power, though? With gas stoves. Not gas stoves, but camping stoves. Don't use them to heat up, but cooking, fine. That's how a lot of people cooked in during the snowpocalypse was barbecues. They had their propane barbecues, and they were running the propane barbecues while it was snow. Yeah, don't run if you're out of power and you have a gas range. Do not use your gas to heat your home. That's a bad idea. You're just gonna get carbon dioxide poisoning. Yeah, wood stove's a good idea, especially for heating. Later, good night, Ionic. Thanks for hanging out. Any truth to the rumor that the Vanduul are actually being pushed out of their systems by something even worse than them? Yes and no. It's still a rumor, but it was mentioned by Aaron at one point that as a hint that might be happening. So. Do you think we'll get player-owned bases, both static and destructible? Kind of like a derelict. Some are dynamic and some are set in set pieces. Not player-owned. I think player-owned will be entirely destructible. But I do think that we will have bases that will be NPC built, which will be static. Propane runs on America. Damn it, Bubba. How could that work? So we know that CIG wants to create more destructive, like destruction states. We do know that, for instance, homesteads have the Frontier Outposts stuff. They have the Frontier Homesteads. They have a derelict, and then they have regular ones. So I assume that at some point CIG is going to map a destruction map on all of those locations so that they can blow them up if they want to. But I'm sure CIG will also keep some to be hero locations where you can't actually do anything to because they want to keep doing missions there. Won't Vanduul not have systems per se? They have areas they control until they move on after they've been stripped of all material. Yes, but we can assume that the Vanduul, being a nomadic species, did what most nomads do, which is they have a rotation where they're going to go to this area for this amount of time, and then they go to this next area this next time, and then go to this last area the next of the time, and by that time, the first area they went to has refreshed in terms of, plants or animals or whatever, and then they can go back there, and they just keep kind of in a circle or a loop around those locations. And if the Vanduul are suddenly returning to Orion, we've known that humanity has been in the Orion system for fucking almost 300 years. So that's a hell of a rotation time if they suddenly show up to Orion after that. So it's likely that they were pushed into Orion rather than intentionally migrated to Orion. Will we see any alien races in Pyro? Since Pyro is a lawless, wouldn't Vanduul make an appearance? What is the system where they finally interspecies relationships or interactions? Probably, just because Virgil's right next to, he's got a jump point to Pyro. But I don't think when it releases, I don't think we'll see aliens. We just don't know why they're nomadic. There could be reasons they're forced to be nomadic outside of cultural. True. Serious, what reason do I have to put forth the effort to build a mining outpost or base if one person in A2 could destroy it all? By the time we get to destructible bases, there'll be ways of defending it. Either automated turrets, which will be able to shoot down the bombs, or more likely, in my understanding, in my belief, especially since CIGs are, as Chris Roberts is a massive Star Wars fan, is shields. Having a base that can be covered by a shield. Which means that you can just go over and bomb it, but the shield's just going to say, lol, fuck you. And you'll do nothing to it. So it would require someone to attack the base, get through the shield, disable the shield, and then, you can do a bombing run. You're doing tacos con carne and lore. That's a very good idea there, Moondog. Hey, TM King. Yes, I know. In our history, the fall of Rome, the Vandals are running from the Huns. That's where the theory comes from, is that a lot of our own history, the UAE is Rome. The Xi'an are like Persia or China. The Banu are like the Arab traders, the Bedouin nomadic traders. Not nomadic, but, you know, Bedouin traders. Like northern Africa and Saudi Arabia. And the Vandul are the Vandals. So the Vandals are being pushed out of their lands by the Huns. In theory, there should be the Hun. Now, thematically, that means that they should be the Carthag, because if the Xi'an are Chinese, the Han dynasty specifically, then they pushed out the Huns, who then arrived at the doorstep of Rome. And if that was the case, the Carthag are the last species that the Xi'an we know of had wars with, and they signed a peace treaty. They didn't win, though, so we will work off. Would you rather have teeth for hair or hair for teeth? Hair for teeth? No, the opposite. Teeth for hair. Okay, I'm on board with that. Bases have Stargate Atlantis shields always up as long as it has power. Not necessarily always up. You have to turn them off and on. So I'm assuming like there'll be some way where you can't enter unless you turn off the shields. Kind of that sort of thing. Opium Copium, we have dynamic event with a Vandal in the Pyro system. At some point, I'm sure. Not in 3.18, though. Evening poll. Or 4.0, I should say. Have you spent much time in the EPTU? Yes, Scape. After the last... I actually have both of the videos still up from last time. I've spent about... I want to say 10 to 12 hours in the PTU so far. And my experience overall is... It's better than most Wave 1 PTUs, but it's still very much a Wave 1 PTU. But you can see the foundations in it. It works. It works better than I thought it would. And it doesn't nearly has as many 30Ks, and other problems with it. It's mostly just teething issues with PES, which are just dialing the system in. But the problem is that PS is also broken everything else. So small little bugs still exist with lots of different things, and those things will need to get handled, which will just, they're not necessarily horrible, but they'll take some time to kind of chase down. Needs more 40K. Will we get shipping contracts / missions along the lines of, say, a game like American Truck Sim? You got to go to a port, pick up a contract, load cargo, and then deliver to another port. Yes, we 100% will. That is planned. That is something they've talked about multiple times, and they even talked about it recently that that's still the end goal. And they need to do things like the cargo decks need to work. They need to have cargo freight elevators, what they call them, cargo elevators, need to be put in the game. And so you understand, effectively, you go to a cargo deck, you load your cargo, which is going to be placed down onto the elevator, then ride the elevator down to your hangar, and then you get into your hangar, and then you have to load your cargo onto your ship, and then you seal up your ship and you take off. That sort of mission requires the dynamic mission system to be functioning, or some sort of quanta system implemented for it. It also requires larger and different sizes of cargo containers. And it requires the ability for NPCs to load and unload the cargo. So. Can CIG license the Star Engines to GW? Okay, thanks. I'd love to see something like that. The ISS is currently doing a spacewalk. They have yellow bars to grapple to transition between exterior areas in the space station, So do you think CIG will be implementing the handlebars on exterior of ships for EVA grappling and traversal? Yes and no. I think CIG is going to go for more of a procedural than a static system. So I think you're going to see something to the effect of, while you are near an item like a spaceship or a wreck, you will use your hands to effectively grapple the exterior. So you're going to be moving along the exterior with your hands. So your hands will be the ones that are holding on to the surface. Now, I know that sounds slippery and all that sorts of things, but I'm sure CIG will come up with specific reasons for it, like small magnets inside of most gloves, the gloves for EVA, especially since they want us to have things that are specialized in EVA. So I'm assuming there'll be some sort of system they'll come up with as to explain why you're not using grapples. And that would also make more sense in the future. Grapples and grappling points makes sense now, but in the far future, we probably wouldn't have those systems in place. We'd have some other system that was more dynamic, that allows you to move from place to place without having to build in those hard points. That lets you be easier to come do things. Yes, you are late, Prom. I believe there'll be anti-bomb missiles that you have to restock, shields that need to be charged, and AI that needs to be paid to protect your base, so using resource management and money sinks. I think something to that degree, yeah. I'm looking for CIG to license the Star Engine for a new Star Trek online MMO. That'd be cool. By what logic does CIG price their ships? I know they're just pledges for crowdfunding, but they must have some reasoning for why the Rock costs this, the Corsair costs that. There are two major ways. Number one, it's equipment. So the more equipment that is on a ship, equipment and guns and like missiles and such, the higher the price. And the less equipment isn't. And then you also have combat tax, you have specialty tax, and you have alien tax. They seem to increase the price for any specialty ship. So if it's like a miner or a salvager, it's going to be higher in price than a typical kind of jack-of-all-trades ship. If it's a dedicated combat ship, same kind of thing. Kind of, you can think of that, all of that's kind of as a professional, like drop ships, combat ships, mining, salvage, like refueling. Those ships are going to be more expensive because they have a very specific role. Then you have alien taxes. So if you have a dedicated ship that is also a professional ship that's also an alien ship, it's going to have even higher price. So the cheapest ships that are going to be around are ships that are jack-of-all-trades ships that are very generic. Oh, are we getting raided? New member, who's that? Who's this? Grizzman, thank you so much for becoming a member on YouTube. Means a lot to me. Prowler, yeah, a Prowler is a great example. A Prowler is a dropship and an alien ship, so it has double dip in terms of its price, which is why it's so expensive compared to even a Valkyrie. AI is frowned on, but when we're talking about AI, when Jordan's talking about AI, he's talking about in-game AI, NPCs, effectively. Question: what did you think of this year's Luminalia gifts this year? They're great. Perfect. The only notes I would have on it would be, more variety. Because we got sweaters, we got an undersuit, we got too many weapons. There's like 3 weapons that we got in there, which is kind of stuff. And then we got a bunch of skins, which is fine, but I think those are fine, just in general. But armor, we didn't get really much of at all. We didn't get a multi-tool, like a multi-tool skin, or just a multi-tool would be nice. We didn't get food. Would be funny, like a fruitcake, or other such classic holiday traditions. We didn't get, we got the little things we did get were good, but more stuff. Armor to use weapons on. I'd love to see a JPEG to hang on the wall. It'd be great. Hey, I'm near Knoxville. That it happens every storm. Yes, bro, you know what I'm talking about. Milk sandwiches, baby. Oh, I moved out of Knoxville 6 years ago, so 7 years ago. I'm in there. My sister and my family still live there. Yeah, we could have pants, or gloves, or shades, or helmets, or hats. We got a hat. We got a beanie. The gifts were good for a new player. Yeah, I mean, that's all you need. Honestly, I know people were complaining about like, oh, well, I got a skin for a ship I don't have. Well, fucking buy the ship then. Buy it in game. You can buy a 100i in the game. Easy. No mad same. And some people still have those things, so. Pants to crap while getting shot. 12 pack of Cruise Lux with holiday wrapper. That'd be fantastic. Hopium Copium. CIG allows community to build ships and vote on the ship in the verse within reason, like a Lego does with the community voting. Probably not. They did that. That was called the Redeemer. That's why I hate it. Pajamas would be cool. Yeah, that'd be great. That's a little addition. Do you think that we'll get a hover quad like release this year as a surprise? Probably not. I think we would have if 318 went live, but it's not, so no. When do you think we'll be able to reclaim our cash-paid armors and guns? Sick of wiping my character all the time to get an NPVU jacket pack. 319 would be my guess, not 318. They'll implement something for that, like in 319. Xenothreat comes and shoots down Port Olisar, Q 4.0. Yeah, maybe. Luminalia pajamas. Yes, it's a great idea. Crate of ammo. Whew. But overall, I would say 318 is going to be it's a lot bigger than many of you think. Because I can guarantee you not a single content creator has been able to do everything that 318 offers, unless they're very, very tired right now. Because give you a rundown. There are 30 plus new outposts. Each outpost is unique to its location, so it's all different. There are new recs for things like the MSR, which are procedural. I believe MSR and 600i have procedural recs, plus the actual rec, the dynamic rec they have. Because I've seen people show off recs of the MSR, and I'm like, that does not look like the MSR rec that we had seen. So that's pretty big if it's true. We got rivers on all of the planets that have planets. So Microtech and Hurston both have rivers. And both rivers now. We've got racing, which is fantastic. You've got the missions that are the Siege of Orison missions, which are done for like single platform sort of thing. How are the finals? Most of my kids passed. There was probably 6 or 7 who didn't, but almost all of them passed. Do you think would have rivers inside caves? Yes, I think that would be a fantastic idea. Because a lot of caves are actually underground rivers, so. That would be a good one. Red Riker BB gun, that's a nice touch. We could get Wow Blast pistols. Or Wow Blast rifles would be nice. The little dart guns. I'm sorry, Commander Diggs. You think someday we'll be able to run an offline PTU someday on our PCs? Like, what if the Russians cut out the ocean floor cables? I almost certainly there will be some sort of version of Star Citizen that people can run on their own personal PCs or do kind of private servers. CIG's already wanted to do private servers, but that was way long ago. But it's going to happen before CIG realizes it. The second Squadron 42 is out, someone's going to use Squadron 42's architecture to create a private server for Star Citizen. Because again, Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are the same game. They're not similar games. They're not built on the same engine. They are the same fucking game. The only difference between Star Citizen and Squadron 42 is that Star Citizen's online and Squadron 42 isn't. They're using aspects of Squadron 42 or Star Citizen in Squadron 42. Like PES is their new version of save game. So using the PES system as a save game system for Squadron 42. That doesn't mean you're going to be saving it to the cloud, but it allows you to save your status where you are into your game files, which will act as what is it called? I always think of it as a river. The back-end servers. I don't think you're going to actually be able to use the sextant, but... So that's an example. So I think what's going to happen is a bunch of very clever and very inventive fans will get together and mod Squadron 42, similar to the 5M or Red M project, if you've seen them, which did the same thing. And they're going to mod it to be able to support multiplayer. So they're just going to import the assets from Star Citizen into Squadron 42, rework the PES system they have for save game as a PES similar to a PES that they have in Star Citizen. It won't be the same. It'll be ghetto versions, and it'll probably not support nearly the same scale of people as Star Citizen's official ones will, but it will definitely allow for some interesting aspects. Do you think at any point in the game's life we will see shipyards where you can watch ships being built through different patch phases? Yes. I can almost guarantee you they won't be actual ships. They will, but they will represent ships being built. If those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Red M is takes RDR2, takes the single player, and then allows you to play multiplayer on it. So it's not RDR2 multiplayer, it's RDR2 single player modded to support multiplayer. So it's not Red Dead Online, it's Red Dead Redemption 2 modded. The same thing happens with 5M, which is just, it's not GTA Online, it's GTA 5, but also online. All the RP servers that do GTA RP, like NoPixel, they use 5M to do that. So Trank bolt from my Shroud of the Avatar crossbow at some point. At some point you will see that. That would be a good addition though for yeah, some sort of non-lethal ammunition. That would be a good thing for the future as well, like ammunition types. Sure, I'm trying not to yawn while I stretch. Question, do you think it would have a Vulture DS? No, because it's not Drake's style. It's definitely Grey Cat style, but not Drake's style. I do think we'll see maybe a Grey Cat or because Grey Cat makes the most sense, but I don't know, Argo makes the most sense. But I do think we'll see an Argo salvage ship that'll bridge the gap between the Reclaimer and the Vulture, though. Like a two-person Vulture, effectively. You can sit on one of the arms wielding a multi-tool. When can I buy my Kickstarter lamp at Kasaba Outlet? That's a good question. It works well with two people, but the other person is sorting it while one person's flying it. It would make sense to have one that's kind of like the Reclaimer does now, where you have the two salvage beams, but instead of having two salvage beams, you have one salvage beam or maybe two, but one's controlled by a separate operator versus the pilot. What general age group do you teach? High schoolers. So between the ages of 13 and 18. Well, technically 13 and 19. Most of them are between 14 and 18, though. Now, personally, I teach sophomores, which is second year high schoolers, and seniors, which are fourth year high schoolers. How can Rock DS not suck at existing? Gosh, I don't understand the like. It seems so fucking arbitrary to have the Rock DS. My condolences. I do the same thing whenever I meet people who are elementary school teachers. I'm always like, I have no idea how you do that. I could not handle that. The true heroes of our time are middle school teachers. I don't know how they do that. Can you even imagine how well the Titan suits will sell once they come out? The concept art I've seen is amazing. Any predictions on when we can expect those? I wonder how they will balance them out. Probably a while, because specifically, oh, and Commander Diggs gives it a bunch of stuff, so I didn't even see it. Thank you, Commander Diggs. Let's get some. I turn off the alerts for this because I don't want YouTube to yell at me for having music. But there we go, Commander Diggs. Thank you so much for gifting those subs. Some beers out there for you. I think the mold needs some revision. The main mining arm should be usable by the pilot without leaving the pilot seat like the Prospector, in my humble opinion. Okay. Can't even handle college kids. Titan suits are, we know that they're going to be in Squadrons, so they won't be released until Squadron's out. So most likely, it's kind of like the Idris and the Javelin. We're just not going to see the interiors of them until Squadron's out. Same thing with the Titan suits. Please tell me we'll have EVA 2.0 version 2 soon. I think we'll see EVA 2.0 at least in the development stage for Squadron, or for Star Citizen, not Squadron, for Star Citizen by the end of next year. Because I earnestly believe that if CIG is planning this far ahead with CitizenCon, they have some sort of big announcement. The only announcement they would have would be for Squadron 42 to be released at some point. So almost certainly they will have a big announcement for Squadron 42 at CitizenCon next year. Probably a release date, which they'll get criticized for, but my hope is they'll do a release date and they'll do some gameplay, because having another vertical slice alongside of it, or a gameplay trailer alongside a release date announcement, would do them wonders. And then after that, we'll almost certainly see EVA, because if they're going to release it in the next 2 years, like they've not said, but as they've may have mentioned that their plan is, then they're going to have some of those fundamental things done sooner rather than later. So since a lot of that stuff seems to be in a stage of completion as of October, almost certainly most of that stuff will be in the game to a greater degree by the middle of next year, which means that porting it over to Star Citizen shouldn't take that long. Hard to say they don't want to put all the CitizenCon stuff in. True. They'll announce Squadron 42 at CitizenCon saying it'll be released in another 2 years. If they announce at a release date, it'll be a year away. But I also expect to be pushed back. So I'd love to see Sadaball, man. I'd love to see a fucking Sadaball. Like, Sadaball is one of those things that I could see the Arena Commander team doing and doing well, so. Just announcement for a brand new RSI mining ship. I don't think we see that. That's a hell of a pre-planning for something that they've done off the seat of their pants for almost 10 years now. Sadaball. We've got a lot of new faces and viewers here. Let me tell you about the in-universe game of Sadaball. So Sadaball is a game where you take a ball in EVA and throw it through a goalpost. Hey! Diggs, thank you so much for becoming a VIP on YouTube. You rock, my man. Shots and cheers. For those of you who are actually members on YouTube, you actually get special emotes, just like on Twitch. So if you go to your emotes tab while you're chatting, you'll see the AstroPub emotes. I got a bunch there. I can actually add more now that I have more VIPs, but it's basically Blitzball from Final Fantasy X, but in space instead of underwear. Kind of. We don't have the full rules because the original rules were not an EVA game, was not a zero-G game. But then they created a version of it that was zero-G for testing, and then it never came out. The concept was to use Sadaball as a showcase for their EVA system. So if the EVA system is finished, then Sadaball would be a great thing to add. Is it true that if you buy another digital game download to your account, you will be able to use it as an NPC crew member whom you don't have to pay a salary? Imagining crewing your Javelin with those. Yes, it was mentioned, but that was a long time ago, so it's hard to tell. Did you have a chance to check out the new rivers, lakes in 3.18 yet? I haven't, no. I don't even know where they are. Essie's version of Griffball changed my mind. Question, what did you think about the Polaris being back in the progress tracker? CIG have shit the bed over the BMN and need a guaranteed sheet in this a ship next year, so they actually finish it next year. I don't know, maybe. I mean, the thing is about the BMM is that it was removed from the progress tracker, or it wasn't updated from the progress tracker. There was some big hullabaloo about it that I saw someone making a big stinky noise about. But the answer is we just don't know, and we won't know until next February when they come back with prioritization. But I think everyone needs to prepare themselves for the BMM being removed from the progress tracker and not being putting shelved next year because they have other priorities. Technically, you could play it anywhere with two cuddy blocks as goalposts and small ship and holes. We just need a ball for a 1/8 SCU box. Yes, but it also doesn't work well with desync, and there's a lot of other issues with it. The current EVA system, it doesn't work as well. So the player schedule is in the progress tracker is a pretty short amount of time, though. Probably this next step beyond the reconcept. It depends on who's in it. If it's the concept phase, then it's still there. There is a basketball, yes, but you have to get the 890 to get it. I said water, not underwear. Oh, when did you say water? Oh, blitzball. Underwater instead of underwater. Oh, I thought it was just one of those quirky things that Final Fantasy does. Because you know how Final Fantasy works. Where did Mike find them, Roboclaw? Hey, Merc. Fashion is the end game. That is true. You found 2 in chests. Okay. John Crew giveth, John Crew taketh. Hey, Citizen Black. Oh. What do I think of Salvage Tier 0? It's fantastic. I know there are people complaining that it's not enough, it's not deep enough. It's like, that's how CIG just builds these things, though. It works well. It's thought well. The next step is obviously hole munching, which almost certainly will make it in next year. So beyond that is you're done. You have stripping and munching. The only thing you have to do now is be able to remove the components, and that's going to be done with what is it called? The resource management system. So. Wait, someone say Final Fantasy? Irrelevant. There's nowhere near enough zippers in Star Citizen. It's definitely the engineering update. If 3.18 is the pirate patch, then whatever resource management is the engineering update. Will we be able to play as other races like the Vanduul? I believe we will, but I don't think that's a post-release feature, so that could be a long time. Definitely not the Vanduul. You'll probably be able to play the Tavarin, and then maybe the Xian and the Banu, but stripping and munching. CIG is very, very bad at naming. I heard tell that Polaris is now in Squad 42. You know if that's right? Doesn't sound like it. Polaris was built after Squadron takes place, so... or while it's taking place. So it could show up, but if it shows up, it'd show up in the exterior. I doubt it would be an actual shipping game. Do you think we're on to longer-term dev cycle, or will 318 come out in the next three to 6 months? I think 319 will probably come out in 319 will probably come out in Q2. I think the only longer dev cycle we have is 318 and 4.0. I think those are the two long dev cycles. So no Kraken crewed by the Vanduul, probably not. Devarn or Banu might become first. The Banu are nomadic. They're not nomadic. They're but they're fractional for sure. But Devarn are an easy choice because the Devarn already exists in the UEE. Everything that is in the UEE is built for both Devarn and humans. So Devarn are able to use everything humans are. So that's an easy transition. You see the Galaxy has a Squadron 42 badge on the progress tracker? I didn't see that. That's interesting. 319 June 4.0 PTU, hopefully in December, the earliest, or at least an open PTU is best. I agree. I don't think 4.0 is going to come out until 2024. Probably around Q1 2024. But then again, as I always say, and this is a controversial opinion, you don't actually want Pyro. None of you actually want Pyro. What you want is the functionality that comes with Pyro. You want the stability that's going to be coming with Pyro. You want the performance increases that'll come with Pyro. You want the content that'll come with Pyro. But you don't actually want Pyro. The idea of having a separate system is nice, but it's definitely not like the draw of Star Citizen. Yeah, most people want higher server takes. They want more gameplay loops. They want solid gameplay loops. They want NPC improvements. They want all of those things. And those things aren't coming with 4.0. They're coming before 4.0. So the fact that 318 is released should indicate now, in at least a PTU form, should indicate that next year is going to have a shit ton more stuff to do. Simply because a lot of the issues that have been gating CIG have been removed. Specifically, having to keep all this stuff in all of the server's memory in short-term memory. We already, and let me put it this way, based off of my own experience and what other people have seen, we already have almost double, if not triple, the server FPS in 318, and it's not optimized. Meaning they're just trying to get it to work. When 318 releases, I wouldn't be surprised if we're at like 15 to 18 server FPS. And you know what that means? It means AI will be fucking dangerous. I wasn't seeing 415. I was seeing dipping down to 7. It's between 7 and 15. The issue we had with AI wasn't necessarily their derpiness. It was because of desync. AI would see us and shoot us and not move. And we, like on my end, they weren't moving. But on another person's end, they were moving. So that's not an AI issue, the AI derpy, because they were shooting at our ass. We had to take cover and flank and do all this sort of things. So, are we able to carry one SCU boxes in the Mule in 318? I don't know. I haven't tested it. Possibly. There's lots of potential in 318. Well, that's the thing. It's like there's a shit ton of things in 318 which are gameplay additions. When it comes out in, February, March of next year, you're not going to be bored from it. There's a ton of stuff that's added. Now, there will be other problems with it, but yeah. New spawn rates are good too. Why does Star Citizen pop up with check logs for 2.4 crashes when people try to install the game and get it started? I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Check logs 2.4 crashes? What does that even mean? Is that the full thing, or is it just, does it say check logs for crashes? Yo, are the Luminalia items going to carry over each wipe? Yes. It will always be yours. If it's in your hangar on the website, so if you go to the website and you go to my hangar, everything that's in there is always going to be there with you. Check logs for crashes. I don't know why they might say that. Doesn't make any sense. Likely check. There may be logs on the actual client side, which I believe there are, which you can find crash reports, so you can see what happens when it crashed. So, do you think we can play as a Vandal in Theaters of War or Arena Commander after Squadron? It'd be dope to be to do the executions. Probably not. Can't wait for 3.18 so I can finally focus on rep building. Be nice. There you go. There's many reasons for that. I highly recommend dropping by one of the community help desk areas for troubleshooting. There we go. I think those are just telling you that there are logs for crashes. So if you crash, you know exactly what's going on. If it's an issue where you are crashing or you're having an issue where you can't even install the game, yeah, check the help desk. If that's what you're asking, it's different. Have you tried playing War Thunder? I haven't played War Thunder in like 6 years. I know you're doing some speculations lately, but I have to rewatch them, so I missed some of it. But what are you expecting for major and coming next patch? In 3.19? I haven't really done a lot of 3.19 stuff because it's harder to tell. I did make my bold prediction on Space Tomatoes podcast, which is Theaters of War. It's not going to happen, but I'm still going to put it out there because I'm pretty sure that Theaters of War is coming out next year. Do I think 4.0 will be the beginning of beta? No, it's the end of alpha. We will have a beta 1.0, but that'll be after 4.0 is out. That's what you were asking. You were crashing for that. So yeah, go to the help desk. There's a help desk on Spectrum that'll help you out with that. Do you think 4.0 will be the beginning of beta? No, that. Guess what's the current jet War Thunder has now? I don't know. F-16? We may have to wait for meeting month to really see 3.19. Nice. May have to wait for meeting month to really see 3.19. So 3.19, 3.19 we're not going to see or hear about until 3.18 is out. Like, we won't even see 3.19 added until 3.19 is released, or 3.18 is released. So we definitely have to wait until after meeting month. I wonder how hard the transition will be from static to dynamic meshing. I don't think it's going to be that hard, relatively, because the complex, what you have to do with dynamic meshing is build a system that is designed to dynamically spin up and spin down, and increase and decrease the sizes of servers, like server areas. You have to build a tool for that. But it's just a tool. It's not actually the networking side of things. It's the tool is registering what's going on and then adjusting the sizes appropriately. That's not networking per se. It's just a tool for the networking system. So I don't think it's going to be easy, but I don't think it's going to be difficult from a network perspective. I wonder, okay. Thanks for move all button on loot. 100% satisfaction. Yeah, it's nice. Another trooper at work, so so that couldn't work. Go with Paul's suggestion and hit up to RSI support. Yeah. When can we expect ballistics to get sensible ammo counts? Most of them run dry in 7 seconds. Post resource management. CIG almost certainly wants you to be able to load and unload your bullets manually. But when it comes to single player ships, you're going to have pretty much the same. You might have a little bit of more bullets, but probably not more. Most bullets in most planes, like fighter planes and even ground support planes, are just like minuscule seconds of ammunition. So I imagine it's going to be about the same thing with ballistics. The major change is going to be when you have big multi-crew ships, you can run around and slam ammo boxes into different receptors. Will you do Star Citizen VR when that is incorporated? They're old now.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Probably go with the Vive, but yes, I definitely will. Sorry, I wanted to go get my actual VR headset, which I haven't used in forever because I need to set it up in my room. Hopefully post armor too. Yes, we'll see. Jump points looked done when they showed at CitizenCon, yet they have had work for 2 more years on them. I wonder if they changed at all. There's a couple of changes they wanted to make. One of them that they mentioned right afterwards was possibly removing the gate infrastructure because it doesn't work with the lore. So instead of making it a big gate, they'll make it less obvious. So that's going to be a little bit of kind of an issue, as well as different separate multiple entrances and exits for jump points. So the issue with jump points is not jump points. The issue with different systems is not different systems. Like the solar system is not different solar systems. The issue is the tech behind those coming into the game. They have lots of stuff developed, but they're not going to see a jump point until server meshing is in. You're not going to see pyro until server meshing is in. Those things are deadlocked, hard locked behind technology, which they need to finish. What else is VR good for? Your taxes. I don't know about you, but all this talk, I need to have some toasted tea cakes. Oh, hey, Corona. Eating VR is breathtaking. I can't imagine what Star Citizen would be like in VR. Wah, indeed, Dofern. Wah, indeed. Hey, Johnny Macaroni. Have you used Tibby yet? Impressions, Tibby. What are you talking about, Peruna? I usually use stick, twin sticks. Thank you, Sarkam. What headset I have? I have a version 1 Oculus. Like, the first version that was, like, on the shelves. Oh, Toby. Yeah, I have the Toby. I haven't installed it. I need to install it, but I do have the Toby. It's sitting in front of my computer right now. I'm just playing with it. I haven't used it in a while, though. I love you for the move. I'm not CIG. I didn't make the move all button, but I'm glad you all had enjoying it. Auto stacking items, I don't know, it might be a good thing. It's probably an easier thing for them to do is auto sort and auto stack. It's very nice. It works very well. Yeah, they gave me one for free, so keep that in mind. I did get one for free because I was part of the first fight or flight competition. So I got one. They gave me one, so I was going to use it for the competition. I did use it for the competition. It's very nice. You got to get used to it, though. And yes, I know. Me doing a competitive dogfighting is a joke. I did it kind of like I was going for it. I was gonna go for it no matter what. I was gonna lose anyways, so I didn't care. You got an index, your buddy has an HP, can't wait for the next generation headsets that don't require you to log into Facebook. Yeah, I would definitely use whatever competitor to Oculus will happen when the next time that comes out. Thought about getting Toby, but thinking I might have issues mounting it into a curved monitor. There are some instructions for a curved monitor. When I got mine, it had them about curved monitor because the way it's attached is actually literally, let's see if I can pull this out, show y'all. It's literally just Velcro. So it's just a Velcro system you use. So you can attach it to either side and kind of attach it however you like. So if you attach it, and it's got this little system right here, and this is just a magnet. So you can slide it up and down if you need to. You can change the height. So it's pretty easy to adjust. Although I'm thinking you work for CIG anyways, you may as well just start turning up the office. Where's my paycheck there, Tyler? I need my paycheck. Yeah, it comes with a bottom mount. The bottom mount is like I said, it's just a twin-sided sticky tape with like the Velcro stuff. Pretty easy to do. Happy Luminalia! Didn't know you can still get those Luminalia gifts from missed on day one. Yes, until January 10th, you can get every single item you missed. So if you missed any of those items, go back and do them right now. I missed day, whatever the Nomad was, I think day 6. And I checked, hey, let me check day 6. And I checked it. I'm like, oh my God, I can go back and get it. So. Has there been talk of scavenging wreck sites for resources like ammo and CPU blades for your ship? No, but I'm sure it's going to happen. Mine's on an Odyssey G9. It works fine for curved. I have it on my G9 and it worked. So both of you both said G9. Let the adhesive adhere to the monitor before putting in the Toby on it. Yeah, just make sure you let it dry. This motor knife looks cool. Yeah, the knife Sully did it again. The Aussie Sulis, the Aussie Banu. Oi. Yep, I knew that was going to happen. But a lot of people commenting, which is good. So y'all should check out the latest lore video. It's out right now. It's called The Alien Holiday That Humanity Assimilated, Luminalia. It's on my The Astro Historian channel, and if you go there, there's a special treat if you stay all the way to the end. Do player ships persist independently in 318 PTU? I believe they do. I do not believe they have a aggressive culling like they do in 317.4. Execute would love to fight an Aussie Banu, I bet. So you've played Knife with Spoony before. They really did listen about our feedback from last year's Luminalia. Everything this year was great, and the knife was just awesome looking. The only thing I would say from now on is, CIG, I'm glad you got everything working in game. Like, all the stuff is in game. But make me log in. To get my Luminalia gifts, I should have to log into game. So I should be able to go claim them in game at an in-game terminal or something. Get me to play the game, not your fucking website. That's my biggest, like, not my biggest, but one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to things like lore or anything else is I don't want to see it on the website. I want to see it in game. Not only do they populate the server with lots of ships, but it doesn't hurt the server performance. Listen, screw you, Red Baroque. I love me some plushies. But yeah, we should see more than just the 2 plushies we've had for a while. I still agree. I still think you should go in there, but I don't think you should. I don't think it has to be the day of. Kind of like what they're doing now with CIG. What CIG is doing now, where like the whole promotion's running until January 10th. So it's for 2 more weeks is the promotion's running. If you made it so that everyone could get all of the items in game between now and between the December 22nd and January 10th, you'll be able to get all of them. You just need to log in at some time between those 2 weeks. I want to see an absolutely tone-deaf Hurston mascot. Oh, yes. The Hurston Hobo. Minty Fizz. The Hurston Hobo. The Hurston Hobo Killers. I guess if you can get a rain check for the later items, you can make it so you can't make it day 12. Make it day. That's what they're doing right now. If you're on the website, you can actually get all of the days if you miss them. You can just go to every single one right now and get all of them. And you'll be able to do that until the 10th. Which it makes sense. To be honest, some people can't get on the game during the holidays. That's fine. It's just like going to the 10th. Old man Hurston. I'm trying to think of a Hurston, like an H sound. But you could go completely different. If it was not, it would be the Hurston Hero. There we go. The Hurston Hero. And it would be like an image of the first Hurston or the current Hurston in like a hero outfit. Something absolutely gaudy and stupid. Just want some parasite zombies on a reclaimer and an abandoned bunker and a moon and some uber hard and creepy missions to deal with them. We need more horror. This was inspired by Alien, for fuck's sake. Peruna, may I introduce you to the whip crab, which looks like rocks and is the size of tanks and lives in caves in Hurston, in Pyro. You're welcome. Have you seen the size of the stone bug? By the way, stone bug, for those who are wondering, the other day we were trying to look for it. The stone bug doesn't actually interact. It's not real. It's just an item, but it's curled up and stuff like that. You can actually eat it. But it's the size of it's like this big. It's the size of a torso. The stone bug is, and they live in sand caves. Yeah, you can find them in loot boxes. Probably soon. I would assume 3.19 or 4.0. Maybe next year. They've already started working on pathing and AI work for multiple AI creatures. It's been in a monthly report for the last 3 months. So it's almost certainly being worked on. So does PES mean that we can bed log anywhere and we log back in when we're still and we'll still be there? You can do that now. But yes, you can do it in 3.17.4. There are some restrictions in 3.18, but yes, you can do that. It will not store your ship if there are people around it. So like if you hopped onto the game and logged off in your bed right outside a station, you will never disappear. So your ship would be there and it could be destroyed. But if you went off in the middle of nowhere and did that. I can't wait till I expose a sand cave. Explore sand cave. Okay, so they said expose. Like, well, okay, we're going weird places here. Explore sand cave when they have thousands of those bugs start pouring from the walls. But you have the whip crabs, which will be a thing in Pyro. You've got the Boreal Stalker in Microtech. You've got the blind Oni crabs in Hurston. You've got the storm walls in Crusader. And through all of the caves and stone caves, you've got Rantas. So. You can't log off without being landed. Okay, so you have to be landed to log off. I knew that they removed bed logging, but then they brought it back in, and there were some restrictions to it though. Zyphopod. That's what the stone bug is too. It looks like a giant zyphopod. That's why I thought it was the Ranta when they first announced it and they first showed it off in a monthly report. At least your landing gear is still down when you come log back in now. We're waiting on ISC. ISC's not coming out. ISC is not coming out and back until probably January. January 12th would be my guess is the first ISC back. New drinking game, guys. We drink every time Paul yawns. What's ISC? Inside Star Citizen. It's a weekly show that CIG does to kind of give us updates on the game. Will we ever be able to craft a survival shelter in Star Citizen? Maybe a tent or something? Probably at some point. Hey, Shinobi! How you doing? Thank you for that raid there, Shinobi. Or no, it's Silver Caves. Silver Caves. How you doing, Silver Caves? Thank you for that raid. Has anyone ever had a one-on-one time with Jared? Yes, I have. Multiple times. We've sat and hung out at conventions before. Maybe in 10 years. It really depend on the priorities. I don't think that's a huge priority, though. Yeah, they usually have stuff. I talked to him frequently. Don't bring up Sassy. Yeah, it's usually a good idea not to don't bring up Star Citizen with him. You think Drake will bring out their own tank? Probably. I want to cook bugs to survive. Yeah. The issue is more that there are probably the next 2 years are going to be super busy with CIG adding a ton of stuff, which is required for the game. So I don't think we'll see naming ships next year. I don't think we'll see prison expansions much next year. I don't think we'll see, like, there's a lot of nice to haves, which they won't do because they're going to be focusing on things like trade, salvage, repair, and bounty hunting. Those are the 4 big things they're going to be focusing on in terms of gameplay. I don't know why they're focusing on bounty hunting, but they talked about it last year, which tells me that it's a priority at some point. So anything dealing with those 4 professions in a very critical sense, like loading and unloading cargo, cargo timers, NPCs loading and unloading your cargo, repairing, processing salvage, medical gameplay for knocking somebody out and incapacitating them, being able to restrain people, to be able to move people who are restrained, dropping people off, tracking people. All of these things need to be added to the game for those things to work. So I love Darktide. I would be playing the shit out of it right now. But I also know that, like, this is the time of year that everyone's paying attention to Star Citizen, especially with 318 coming out. How will the game differentiate between bounty and kidnapping? A bounty target. If somebody has a bounty target, like has a bounty out on them, which is legitimate bounty, then it's not kidnapping. It's still kidnapping if you're in an area that it's, you know, you're not supposed to be, but Drake does need a technical. I still think that you just remove the back of a mule and put a size 4 cannon on that bastard. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. I think we'll see animals likely, possibly next year, because I think they're going to be needed for Squadron. There's multiple mentions of animals being worked on in Squadron, so I'm assuming that that's the priority. Size 4 sounds excessive, but so is Drake. That's the point. A logical person would put a size 1 or a size 2 on it. But Drake, fuck you, it's a size 4. Maybe a zoo. I don't know. I'm assuming that there will be some animals that will be roaming around certain areas of the maps that you go to. Possibly even animals in derelict ships you have to explore. And imagine soft killing a hauler, taking the pilot and kidnapping him, or soft killing an E1 and kidnapping a VIP. I mean, you could do that, but you're almost certainly going to get charged for it. How does the player get out of that situation? Either die or fight their way out. You can't hold people forever. Someone's going to be able to either wiggle out or be able to do some things like that. The Hurston Haberdasher. It's a good name. How long do you think it'll be until we see Quanta implemented into the counter rates or the economy? It's already in the encounter rates. You've done any combat missions? Those emergency contact combat missions? That is all entirely run by Quanta. The low to high, all of those things, that's all Quanta run. Now, in terms of more incorporated, probably next year we'll see some more of that. We got another patch today? Sweet. Let's read the notes real quick. And the notes haven't been released. Aw, let's be wholesome. It's the all right. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit. So today is the first day of Luminalia. For those of you who don't know, it's a 2-day festival that happens in from the Banu. It's called the Glow Festival. And it happens between December 22nd and 24th in Verse. So Freya, who's the new community manager, she's one of the new community managers, has done a post saying, on this auspicious day of Luminalia, we bask in the glow of ceremonial lamps. The CIG team would like to take their time to thank all of you for your wonderful 2952. Thank you for all the laughter, the amazing heartwarming comments, the fantastic creations you've all shared with us, and your feedback and thoughts in the past year. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to share this journey with you, and we look forward to continuing next year. Wherever in the verse you may be, whatever you celebrate, we hope your holiday season is filled with not only cozy warmth and glowy lights, but also the favorite people, things, and food. Thank you again, and see you in the verse. One Suli, one universe, one community. Happy Luminalia from all of us at CIG. There's Jake. There's Xylo. There's How I Brick. We could have been happier. Couldn't be happier. So How I Brick is the producer. He's the community team producer. With all the reception this year's advent calendar's gifts, it was the truest definition I can think of labor of love. All this work with your various dev teams. Thank you for enjoying so much. Nothing but handlebar pictures / crossed out amazing items on there. I want it. I still want it. Still want it as an in-game title, either a melee weapon or a picture. Riker, Synthwave, Waka, Baylor of Red, Void Kobold, Proxys, Knight Rider. I love this. Cadbury, Bearded, who's a punny. He's very punny. Galactica, Calypso, Jack, Sea Daddy. Hey, there's Sea Daddy. Hold on. This is for you, Sea Daddy. This is for you. Hi, Brick, Corporal Crash, Chris Wayne. He's another member of the CIG community team. Mora, Big T.O., Kraus. It's very nice. Hey, I thought I saw Tomato. Hey, Tomato. All right, that's wholesome shit. Thank you. Paul will end up loving the Redeemer once the game goes live. I fucking hate that thing. I'm just going to expect 2023 to be nothing year, so whatever get this was plus. That's a healthy way of looking at it. Let's see what the name of it was. There was a I learned about a paradox. Where are paradox? Named after an admiral. The Stockdale paradox. Have y'all heard about the Stockdale paradox? Yeah, it could be on the YouTube side. It's fine. Hey, Steve French. We were looking at before was the it's a thread on Spectrum where CIG was saying Happy Luminalia, and a lot of people and CIG's team got on to post being all wholesome and shit. That is Admiral Stockdale. Midnight Black. That is entirely true. Same Admiral. From the Vietnam War. But the Stockdale paradox specifically, Admiral Stockdale survived capture in Vietnam, and when he got back, he apparently was not as like emotionally or like he adjusted much better coming back from his capture, and so he sat down with some psychologists. And interviewed them. He talked with them to they're trying to figure out what he did or what was about him that allowed him to not be as fucked up as other POWs. And what he came to the thing that they said, okay, what's the thing that you think made you not go crazy? And he said, I knew I was going to get rescued. I knew I was getting out of here. I didn't know when, but I knew I was going to get out of here. And I knew this would be a major point in my life. And when they asked him, well, who were the people who broke first? And he said, the optimists, the people who thought they were going to be out in December. They thought they were going to be in Christmas. They thought they were going to be out Easter. They thought they were going to be out in the summer. And they just kept thinking that. And eventually they got to a point where it just ground them down and they broke. And the Stockdale paradox is effectively, hope is important for anything you do. No matter what, you always want to have hope. But hope can also, paradoxically, be a big problem for your own expectations. For having too much hope can be a bad thing, and having too little hope can be a bad thing. You have to have the right amount of hope. And so that when I heard about that, I remember whenever I saw it. I think I saw it on like a YouTube show or something like that. Have no expectations, but be optimistic. Effectively, yes. I think like that's the best way of looking at everything, but that's a great way of looking at Star Citizen. Is don't come into Star Citizen being like, oh, well, what's coming out next year? Be like, I have no fucking idea. Like, parts of the game will be coming out, and eventually Star Citizen will release at some point down the road. But be happy with what we have and look forward to the nearest future that we know is going to be put into the game. Yes, do not overdose on hopium. Hopium is a deadly drug. And I think it's how a lot of people who have, like myself, because when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I think about Star Citizen. I think that's how a lot of people who have been here the longest in Star Citizen have survived, is just not having expectations beyond what we can see. And for me, it's keeping myself busy in the sense of like I'm looking at CIG develop. Like I've learned a lot about development by watching CIG, but I've also studied other game companies and I've studied other games, like the problematic releases, good releases, how different companies function, the process upon which games are developed, because I started following CIG. I did that before, but now that I have more of a connection to CIG, I can do that a little bit better with all the other, I can look at the other features, other game companies, and see that a little bit better. And so that's how I've mostly stayed on task, is I do the lore, which is fun, and then I look at development, and then I play the game. It's pretty easy to do. Keep your expectations vague or little to non-existent, and you'll be happy. Yeah. But I think there's a difference between setting expectations and being being a pessimistic asshole. Because you can easily go from setting realistic expectations to being a pessimist. Being like, oh, well, PES is not coming out until 2025. Server meshing is never coming out, and those sorts of things. Because it's like, that's just being an asshole. That's just being angry. Yeah, I agree, Johnny. Lore is awesome. Games with good lore is captivating. Games with lore allow you to go deeper than the surface level of a game and will live longer. Games with good lore last forever. Not just games, but movies, books, television shows. If they have a well-developed, well-crafted, and deep lore, then it leaves a lot of options for spin-offs, for other media adaptations, and just for people to talk about it, to theorize, to question. And CIG has been doing a very good job with that. The thing they need to do now is actually implement the fucking thing in the game so more people can realize that. But the great work is continuing. And so what I do is I have a bit of a I have rotation. When Star Citizen is at its lower points, when it's no longer being when we're having content droughts, I can make lore videos and look at the next future. When Star Citizen's working, I can play the game, still do lore videos and stuff like that, but I don't have to rely on that as much. So, Lord of the Rings and Dune are two great examples. Yeah. It's an amazing early access game for $45. I think most salt comes from heavy backers. Yeah, I also think that a lot of people don't watch videos or read. So you see Mike, Salty Mike, a video. His title will be like, CIG lied to you again? ? And everyone's like, oh, fucking Salty Mike. But then you watch the video and it's not at all what that is. He's just learned the art of the clickbait. And so a lot of people, the problem is that I think a lot of people will click on it and other people won't. And if you go down the negative clickbait side, more negative minded people will click on it. They still won't watch it, but they'll comment on it. But if you go the more positive side, you'll still get we won't get a lot of positive folks. If you go to the more positive side, you'll get more positive and negative folks, because negative folks will still pop on because they think you're a copium, hopium, whatever addict. And so they'll try to shit on you. And you end up with more people watching your takes, even if it looks optimistic, which is why I think a lot of people think of me as a white knight and Mike as a troll or like salty dude. If me and Mike were on a video together talking about our beliefs, they would probably be exactly this fucking same, because that's the way it works. Most people I've talked to in the Star Citizen community, they'll have their concerns and they'll have their issues, but generally speaking, almost everyone has the same idea because we're looking at the same data. So. You got to play the YouTube algorithm. Well, it's not even the YouTube algorithm. You got to play people's mentalities. Right now, I did a video on Luminalia, right? I knew that it was going to be in a search term, so I knew it would do okay, but I also knew it won't do nearly as well as if I did a ship lore. And the reason why is for the fact that most people don't care about anything in Star Citizen but ships. So I released it knowing it wouldn't do well. However, I didn't even bother doing a thumbnail for the video that I did before this because I knew people would click on it. Because the automatic YouTube thumbnail was just a snapshot of the vulture, and I'm like, "Bip, that's fine. People are gonna click on it anyways because it has salvage in the title." And guess what? It's damn near 5,000 views. So it's the issue isn't necessarily the algorithm. It's partially the algorithm, but also a lot of mental, like trying to get your attention, to get you to pay attention and click something. And that's a very delicate process. Nothing really important more, Ryan. We're just talking about the realities of Star Citizen fandom. You don't really though, Mickey. I can almost certainly click some clickbaity titles, or what most people would think is clickbaity titles, because a clickbaity title is something that makes you want to click it. The key of a good clickbait is not that it makes you want to click it; it makes you interested in seeing the video. Not you won't believe what this. No, that's not the case. What you do is you say something to the effect of the unbelievable truth behind the most famous. I'll just do Star Citizen example. A great title for the invasion of Orion. How one of the first. I'd start off with saying how one of the first colonies of humanity was utterly destroyed, and I'd work my way down from that. So it's only like a couple of things, maybe something of the utter destruction of humanity's first hope, the invasion of Orion. Boom. Makes you go, what is the invasion of Orion? And it makes you click on it. Do I think it would do well? No, because no one cares about Orion or even knows what I'm talking about. But if something about the Orion or the Van Duel or something like that came out, you could easily tag that into that. Yeah, that's true. But I think that what people think when someone like me says clickbait and your average person thinks clickbait, they're two different things. I think people have gotten better with clickbait as we have mostly gotten past the absurd version of clickbait probably a few years ago. Oh, Ryan. Hey, Sea Daddy. Did you like my post? Star Citizen development is too slow for anyone's tastes, and everyone reacts to that in really different ways. It's all entertainment, my dude. I find Mike and Grumpy entertaining. I just take them with a grain of, salt. Yeah, I guess it really is up to your individual purposes. My point was, I don't think when you actually look at most content creators, their opinions on the game, they're not going to be very different from one another. The idea of someone being a white knight versus a troll or salt or lord it's a completely fiction. It's invented in people's brains when it's because of how you present yourself in your content. And that will determine, and then word of mouth, obviously, and that really determines it. Like, for instance, I changed over from the AstroPub to the Astro Historian, and almost instantly, and I mean almost fucking instantly, people followed me on the Astro Historian who had no clue I was also the AstroPub. And that's going to continue to happen as I go through. Unless I explicitly state, come watch me live on the AstroPub on an Astro Historian video, no one will do it. Or many people may not know about who I am and what I do, that I actually do face cams and all these sorts of things. So it's just all about that sort of thing. It's the weird psychological aspect of communities. So I don't get it. It seems at this point Star Citizen will never be even in a soft launch state, even though I want it to so badly. We're in the world of Squadron 42. I mean, geez, it's being worked on. As I said earlier, being worked on. If you get tied to Star Citizen being needed to release in a certain year, you're not gonna survive long. You're gonna end up getting really bitter about the development. I get people get upset about the speed of development, but there are two options. Either CIG can shut up and not give you anything and get it done in half the time, or they can continue to develop the game at the pace they're developing at. You either get nothing or something. And if you got nothing, you wouldn't back for it anyways, so no one would know about it, and thus it wouldn't advance. So, parasocial relationships can evolve in the weirdest ways that don't seem logical. Yeah. One thing I love about Star Citizen versus other MMOs is it's more open sandbox. I can do FPS or delivery or racing or explore or a little of each completely do something in the game that isn't designed to do. There's no storyline I have to follow. I create my path. Yeah. I think if you add in the verse that you're in, the universe you're in, for context of the universe, it would make it a lot even better. But that's just me. Also, I can point out the big point in Salty Mike's favor. What he's doing works well enough for us to be talking about him here. Yeah. I just use him as an example because I think a lot of people tend to have that mentality. I can tell you that Mike is a much more successful content creator than I will ever be. Maintaining a live environment has slowed the game up a lot. It's necessary to keep funding. Yeah. So it is. It is what it is. My only hope is that CIG gets to a point where they're releasing repeatable and entertaining repeatable loops. Good, solid NPC missions that scale well. That's it. Which is, I think there's something they're trying to do, especially when you have people like the Astrosaltorian. It's just not my kind of entertainment, Blizz. It's just like, that's just not my style. Like, I know I'm not doing content that people will like because it's lore content. Lore content is not a big draw for gamers. It's a very it's a niche subgenre, and Star Citizen's already a niche subgenre, so you have a niche of a niche. Just not going to do much work. I think the key is to build the platform and maintain it and grow it as fast as I can, and grow it well and steady, so that 3 years down the line, when CIG finally releases Squadron 42, I've already got the established background to be able to tell people what Squadron 42 is about, what the universe of Squadron 42 is about, be able to do videos about Squadron 42 lore and aspects of the lore that people may not know about, and people will watch it. They'll be entertained by it, and the channel will grow by then. But I have two options. I can either shut the fuck up now and wait till that happens, and then I lose all my momentum, or I do it now and entertain myself, enjoy my content, and also learn the stuff. So that's why I found this crappy stream, because of the Astro Historian. Thank you, Johnny. To be honest, on that metric, I think you're more successful than you think. Not the metrics that I'm looking at, but yeah. I may have to get a brand new radiator. Oof. Send me back $200. Everyone in this severe winter weather is going to make sure you keep up with your car maintenance. It can literally mean the difference between life and death. Yeah, I get that. You got the download error fixed. Thank you for your recommendations. Can't wait for getting started on an adventure. Enjoy it there, Magziv. Good luck in the black. If at first you don't succeed, redefine success. I mean, you're not wrong. It's a healthy way of doing it. great. Ollie's fantastic. But he's a different style of content. Ollie comes from a background, which I got to get Ollie on. I've been trying to get Ollie onto a captain's table for a long time. You get Ollie on to do content. He's going to do content that he comes from the background of GTA. So like Sandbox is his shit. Like this is his bread and butter in terms of how to do content. And so he's just exploring and enjoying himself, which is a great way of doing it. What got me into Star Citizen? Okay, so this is a long story, but the shortest version of it was I always wanted to play a game like Star Citizen when I was growing up. And for some reason, I had an arbitrary time limit where I said, if by the time I'm 25, if this game isn't made, I will try to make it myself. So I have the barest basic understanding of coding, and I'm just like, you know, it'd be a good way of teaching myself how to code anyways. So I came up with ideas, I came up with a plan of an idea how to work, and very basic. And I was talking to friends I know who knew how to code, who had experience, and when I talked to one of them, they said, "You mean Star Citizen?" And I said, "The fuck is Star Citizen?" He said, "What you just described to me is Star Citizen." And so I had to look it up, and from there on, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. I'll wait until it gets into alpha." And then I watched, I think, a Scott Manley video where he talked about the release of the Hangar module, and I jumped on to get access. But the problem is that none of the ships packages that I saw said alpha. The only one that I could find that said alpha access was the 315p, so I bought the 315p. From then on, it's just been going up. So do yourself, let your curiosity drive you. People will come and go. There's litmus value there. Yeah. Super Mac Bros has been on multiple captain's tables. Mac and I go way back. He has a kid. I've asked him before. He's like, I am so fucking busy. Let me put it this way, Desolus. How many Star Citizen Sundays have ended up becoming Star Citizen Wednesdays? That tells you how busy he is. Success only happens when you plan the stairs of trial and error, and fails when you get the sand on top of the mountain, and even when that doesn't last because Murphy's Law. Yeah. For the last 3 years, I guess I missed him every time. He's been a while since he's been on. I think it was 2017 or 2018 when he last was on. The times at the table are like extremely early for him in the UK. Yeah. I'd have to do something in the summer. Because in the summer, I'll do stuff like Captain's Tables around this time, where it's a little bit easier for people to get on. Star Citizen is so many people's dream game, but it's also still very niche. The key is with Star Citizen is that, and this is the unique part about it, I think, is that it is not a genre game. It's not a shooter. It's not a space sim. It's not a life simulator. It's not a sandbox. It's not an MMO. It's not any of those things. It's all of those things at once, which is what makes it ambitious. And so it attracts a lot of different people to the game, which is a good thing because it has a different aspects. You have people who are hardcore PvP fans. You have PvE fans. You have people who like things like Euro Truck Simulator, those sort of like simulator games which are more profession based. You have role players, you have builders, you have, all these sorts of different gameplay styles coming in to play the game play this game and bring their own perspective to it. Which means that Star Citizen almost, as long as it has good advertising, it has almost limitless growth potential. So many dreams because we're not ready, because it will only be ready in our dreams. Yes. On that note, I often see people say things, it's better to have 3 prospectors than a mole. And I just want them to know that a lot of people have no interest in flying ships, but would like to do other gameplay options. That's true. Bruce has been replaying Mass Effect and made me think whether the game has done its Galaxy was what Star Citizen was originally going for. Yeah, to a degree. But what will SCX XL for SPS ship simulation RPG? What will Star Citizen be like? I don't think Star Citizen is going to be the best at anything. I don't think it'll be the best space sim ever. I don't think it'll be the best FPS ever. I don't think it'll be the best role-playing game ever. But I think it'll have aspects of all of them, which will make it more interesting. Star Citizen will excel at being a sandbox. If we're going to say one thing, it'll excel at being a sandbox. And the key with sandboxes is that not many sandboxes, true sandboxes, exist in gaming. Very few exist online, especially. Because they often turn into these weird, quirky games like GTA Online or Red Dead Online, where people are just doing weird shit to each other because they're bored. The key with a sandbox, a proper sandbox, is to have plenty of things to entertain a player who is just playing the game, but also have tools to allow players to do things that are not intended gameplay or not necessarily designed gameplay. So if there's going to be one thing it would excel at, it would be sandbox gameplay. Give you the tools to make your own entertainment while also giving you the ability to play the entertainment they've developed. That'd be cool if we can drive a truck from one warehouse to another. Yeah. 1D, Merry Christmas. Hello, chat. How you doing, buddy? Yes. What I'm saying is Star Citizen's Voltron. The 3 prospector versus mole idea might be different when we get NPCs to use the mole lasers on top of more efficiency kind of thing. Hey, Gideon, how you doing? Me, so many parallels between Star Citizen and DayZ. Same here. I mean, first got into Star Citizen, that was the parallels I drew because I was a big DayZ player at the time. So I would say Sandbox allows the player to get creative with the tools they're given. And that's the key, is that right now, the thing that Star Citizen lacks is tools. But the one thing that CIG doesn't lack for in terms of designing is tools. So a lot of it is going to be CIG developing tools for players to use, which is what they're doing. I don't think a pure sandbox is a good model. Even something like Eve has very defined progression loops. Star Citizen I think it's going to be a pure sandbox. There's really not a lot of progression that you can do in Star Citizen. The thing that is your main progression is rep. And rep isn't just a progression loop, it's also a hindrance. Because if you have the wrong type of rep, you won't be able to go to certain places. Rep will determine what you can and can't do in the game. Yes, Rastar. Oh, and Obsolete AI, I didn't see you subscribed. Sorry about that. I'm going through all the... Hey, a tip.
OCM, super chatted $10. In January, you said this year was critical for SIG. They needed to get all or part of General 12, pairs plus meshing, and Quanta in to come with a tidal wave, vs, slow current with uncertainty. How do you feel now?
They got Gen 12 in. They got PES for sure. And they've got part of Quanta in. So I would say it's still going to be a slow burn, but with less uncertainty. And I still say, like I said then, we really have to see when certain things release. If 3.18, we actually almost certainly know what's going to happen next year because there's not a lot of ambiguity. But it really depends on when 4.0 releases. But I don't think we're going to see a tidal wave in the way that I thought at the beginning of the year, especially with meshing and taking as long as it was going to take. This is who, my waifu. Oh, you're talking about, no, that's my, my text to speech. OC Mesh, donated $10. So that was, on YouTube. So that's why, came through. No problem. The lack of multiple progression loops is my big worry for the game. I'm also worried that they're hanging too much on rep and not others. I'm just saying it won't work. I'm not saying it won't work, just that it's my big concern. I think rep is an umbrella. There's a lot of things you can hang on the edge of rep, not just rep, but things like criminal status, things like because you can the granular nature of rep is so, like, how big or how small you can go is so dynamic that it doesn't have to just be your reputation with this company. It can be your reputation with this particular employee of this company. May have an impact of what you can and can't do. Who you talk to at the desk, depending on their the cycle of the NPCs and where they're supposed to go, that matters. No, 30K, I don't think. Would you like that CIG takes a slow and meticulous approach to development, or does it need to be fast and furious, accompanied with its share of bugs and hellfire, or a mix of both? I think it's probably a mix of both. I'm much more of a fan of CIG just pushing shit out and then fixing it than CIG trying to meticulously release something, because when CIG is like, oh, we need to make sure this is as good as possible, they take for fucking ever. And then by the time it's released, it's like, none of this really matters. You got like, because CIG will take 6 months to build something, and it's 4 hours of gameplay. Not repeatable. It's like, the fuck was even the point? Especially with things like missions, like events are a great example. Like, you take all this time and effort to build out these events, which may delay other things, and then they're like 2 hours and you never repeat them again. The U.S. educational officials finally gives you a break. You use it to stream. Bro, go take a nap. No, I'm doing it early. I'm not gonna stream tonight. That's for sure. Getting in my head, the new racing loop in their free time. Maybe unpopular, it'll be a popular room, but CIG seems to have a few staff with nothing to do at the moment. My guess is not really. It's just that there's a lot of people who are passionate about this game. CIG, based off of my experience. By the way, how you doing, Abduwak? Based off my experience, CIG gives plenty of their employees plenty of time off. And if you're saying CIG needs to crunch more, yes, that is an unpopular opinion. Go fuck yourself. No one should ever, crunch should never be a thing if everything is done right. Crunch is a terrible way of managing in any way, shape, or form, and it hurts people. It can get people killed. So no, I don't want CIG to abuse their employees. If anything, I want them to give more time off and hire more people and pay them better. Those are the things I'd want. But yeah, crunch is terrible. And I don't think that's what you're saying, Mr. E, but I'm just saying anybody who says that, go fuck yourself. Like, literally. Like just go fuck yourself. Yeah, because crunch also doesn't make good games. Happy Luminalia to you too there, GQ. Everything is hinging on PES for the next phase. I hope that the pace picks up after everyone's back. Yeah, I think that's going to be the case. The one thing I know that CIG is very good at is iterating. They are very good at iterating. Yes, exactly. Do more new ships that support what I want. No, nobody else wants what I want. Hey, Midnight Wolf, how you doing? Captain Crunch disapproves. Yeah, usually when we're talking about free time, a lot of CIG members will have, they're waiting for big technical aspects to come in. Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, not what I'm saying. More like they need to get the next step before they can do anything tangible. That's exactly what it is. There are three major blocks. These are not Jesus patches. These are not things that are to be liked. These are things to be slayed. These are things to be overcome. These are things to be punched into submission. And those things are persistent entity streaming, server meshing, and quantum. Those three things need to be tamed in order for Star Citizen to become more than it is now. And they've already started the process of taming PES and Quanta. The only thing they have left is server meshing, and I think it's the least of the concerns of the game. It'll allow for scaling, is all that server meshing does. Amazing. I'm stuck in the airport in New York, and I never happened to see Paul. Hey, Red, I'm glad you're here. Stay warm, buddy. Hey, Velocity. Ah, round of beers. I didn't see that. Hey, Celine, how you doing? Welcome everyone from Celine's stream. What has been the retention of CIG compared to other dev companies? I don't know. I don't think CIG makes that noticeable. But there are people who work at CIG who've been there for 6, 7, 8 years, which is very unusual. The typical retention of a video game company is between 2 and 4 years, because that's usually what a project takes. One other note, do you think we'll go to OpenPU before they go on break? Not in the current status, no. I think they may go into Wave 2, though. What's the making server meshing difficult? Not necessarily what making it difficult, it's what's stopping server meshing from happening. And that's persistent entity streaming. That's it. You need PES to work before you can do server meshing. So, and that's the more difficult part anyways, because it requires you to move everything off the fucking server and then stream it back in and stream it back out. And as we've been seeing with 3.18, it causes delays. So you claim your ship and it takes a long ass time for it to actually be claimed or to store or whatever. You have these weird bugs about loading and unloading stuff. It's all that kind of stuff. And Mr. E, I wasn't necessarily, I thought you might be thinking it, but I didn't. It was like, that's probably just something different. But I have seen multiple people mention in comments, and not my comments, and in comments on like Reddit and other places, that like CIG needs to be crunching more. And that pissed me off. Like, as somebody who's done enough research into video game development and software development in general, and seeing the effect, people have died because of crunch. People have committed suicide because of crunching. I am not even joking. It is a serious thing. So I also wanted to use that as a springboard to be like, nobody here should be saying CIG should crunch. It's okay. Later, Abdi. Have a good night, buddy. I'll be back at streaming tomorrow for a longer period of time, but continuous crunch is the worst, yeah. Just iterate. Yeah. ICU stated that it could be CIG's project is their first one, and they need to have it released before they move on. I guess we'll see if Squadron 42 releases. Yeah. I agree with execute, but I don't think it's the reason why people are staying. I think people are staying because the other thing is that CIG has a well-earned reputation, according to most of the people I've seen who've worked for them, for being a very good employer. They may not pay the best, but they give really good benefits. They're average in terms of pay, but they have really good benefits. They have at least 2 to 3 months off of paid vacation a year. They have generous benefits when it comes to things like mental health, vacations, like taking time off for that sort of thing. They are very, very generous as employers. So that's what they use to make up for the fact that they can't pay people a ton of money. So. Well, it's not just Europe benefits. It's the people in Europe get every U.S. holiday, and the people in the U.S. get every European holiday. So, for instance, in Europe, all of the studios get July 4th off, and in the U.S., I believe you get Good Friday off, and other things like that. So, yeah. So that's the deal they worked out between all of them. They do have personal deadlines and goals, M3. They just don't always hit them. Yeah, CIG employee, C Daddy can confirm. It's lots of day off. It's pretty nice. And at least I know in Austin, they have at least partial remote options. So if you work in the studio, you can also work something like 60-40 or something like that. So you can spend 60% of your time at home and 40% inside the office. You're up early, AstroPub. Well, I wanted to do an office hours that was during a time when Europeans were around, because usually I don't get to do this when Europeans are around. So, and I had time today, so I figured I'd do that. And did they get the paid vacation in the US too? Yeah, they do. So they get Thanksgiving twice, once for the UK team. I think they made the deal before Montreal was in, but they may do that in the future for sure. But Europeans, thank you. If you make it your goals, it's fine. Just take the time you need. Don't rush. Push broken stuff. Yeah. I think we both ended with the early, I want to do the do thing. Yeah. Because my plan is to end this stream in the next 30, 40 minutes or so. And then I'm going to go have some food with the wife and brother-in-law. Well, yeah, my brother-in-law. Well, my brother-in-law's probably asleep. He's working for Amazon now. He's living with us for a bit until he gets his own place. So probably in February. Hearing that explained has it making a whole lot of sense why they seem to be so many ISC breaks. Yeah. Because not only does the ISC themselves, the people who work for ISC, take days off, but they also need to get people talking to ISC. So they may be off on break, on vacation. So they just have to take those breaks until those people can come back. Have they gone stay in? Are you going to stay in one PTU or release PTU for everyone before they go on vacation? At this point, I'd maybe wave 2, but probably not wave 1. Probably not wave all, though. People actually think if CIG stopped putting funding, they would crunch and get stuff done faster. What? No, they would just release subpar product and add macrotransactions to keep it on life support. Yeah. Rested and healthy programmers are good programmers. That's just the work. Sumiko, that's just everyone, though. People who are rested in general are better at what they do. The thing that makes me nervous about the development of this game is the players. The balancing development and playable product, I feel, make the developers chase their tails every patch. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the issue is, and I think CIG is doing this the best they can, is you need to have a team who's solely dedicated to balancing what you have. Because that team will learn a lot from balancing in an alpha. Because once they get to the part where the balance is starting to matter more, they have this ream of experience on what happens in the game, player behavior. And I think that's honestly the biggest weakness that CIG has, is they do not have player behavior specialists. They don't have people who focus on what do players do when they do X, Y, or Z. I think they're focusing so far hard on the technical aspects that they're not looking at the psychological aspects of gaming, which in my mind are equally important to the technical aspects, because you could be teaching players the wrong lessons when they're doing an objective, which is why this whole like new player experience thing is going to be so critical to onboarding players, not only in terms of telling them how the game works, but explaining how the game functions and how the developers want them to play the game. Because developers want people who play a game a specific way. So if players don't need to be able to play, they'd work faster. Yes. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. They live and breathe by internal deadlines. They do. I like to sprinkle a little cereal on ice cream to add some crunch. We already have microtransactions. No, we have macrotransactions. But you can do that when it literally funds the development. Yeah. I honestly think we also have microtransactions. I honestly think more people are willing to back Star Citizen because it is more open. As much as we veteran backers like to say, oh, CIG is being reclusive, they're lying to us, what's going on? I think they're more open than 90% of developers. So that's not to say we shouldn't advocate for CIG to be more open. Far from it. We should definitely hold CIG accountable in the sense of like pointing out bullshit when we see it. But at the same time, I think we often forget that CIG is doing something that no other developer does, or even attempts to do. And that is the thing that allows for that funding model to go to work, because without that trust, that fundamental trust, it won't work. Why are you not streaming this early normally? We could co-stream. Because I normally work right now, X. It's 3, like I get off of work. Normally I don't get off of work for another 45 minutes. Couldn't quantum and statistics flush out that player behavior by their movement and actions? Yes and no. You can get some aspects of that, but you also, statistics don't necessarily, they tell you what is done, not necessarily how it's done all the time. There's a streamer, Luke something. He was actually surprised at the level of openness of CIG and that they do give us a lot of information on what's being done. Yeah, whenever you get an outside perspective, someone who's not, I mean, Celine, I don't know if you're still here. Celine can give you an example. Think about Frontier. Frontier, I've known many people who've worked at Frontier for years. I've known many former members of Frontier. I know that their development team is pretty good. They're pretty small, but they're a solid team. And the Frontier is usually pretty dedicated to making good games. But fucking radio silence after a release. They don't talk about shit for months. You may get an update like a couple of weeks before release, but it's really, really terrible. And you barely hear anything from FDev. And you keep that in account. Let's look at Bethesda. All right, Bethesda's releasing Starfield in like 3 months. Starfield's going to be out in like 3 to 4 months. We don't fucking know anything about that game at all. We're still hanging on the words of Todd Howard, who's giving us vague allusions to what's actually happening. Like, we don't even have a fucking real gameplay trailer. I mean, we have an early concept gameplay trailer, which was released 2 years ago. And that's my point, is that, like, we don't have any information. And most game development works like that. So CIG, in and of itself, is incredibly open. Because I've said this before. If CIG is not talking about something, they're not fucking working on it. They'll tell you what they're saying. Like people are like, oh, well, we want to know what CIG is doing. They tell you everything. Like literally everything. I mean, the only way they could get more detailed is if they could give you a log of every time they took a piss. Like, that's how detailed they are in terms of the content. We know how many people are working on a project. We know when their sprint is starting and ending. We know what their plans are for specific areas. We get monthly reports and updates on what they did that month regarding those sprints. Like, we get a lot of information. Yeah, the only thing they're doing is Squad 42. But even then, they give you all the updates. If you really want to follow Squad 42 development, it's on the progress tracker. It's on the monthly reports. You can find it. You can learn about every detail of Squadron 42 that's being worked on. You just don't necessarily know what's in Squadron, but they'll tell you that they worked on this scene, a scene from this section, and this is the first time I learned about how CIG has a new standard. By the way, y'all, if you don't know, CIG has a new standard for Beyond Greybox and Final Art, which is Beyond Final Art before completion, which is called Vertical Slice. They have a standard called the Vertical Slice Standard, where they bring everything up to a vertical slice standard before they move on. Hey, all, as a new player, only 7 months in, the scope of CIG completely baffles me. Feels like I've only scratched the surface at the point, and I love it. It's only going to get deeper. It's understandable they don't give Squadron updates to not spoil the story. But, I mean, God damn it, y'all. That's what she said. Oh. But the point being is, like, you can get updates. It's just you don't get flashy pictures. You don't get videos. You just get text. I think that's what a lot of people distrust, is text. Apparently, reportedly, they added the Polaris to the progress tracker. Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah. I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't looked at it, but hopefully their AI rework is further than expected, but that's giving me off. That's me being hopeful. Sheepy, did you see the Squadron 42 AI work on CitizenCon? Because that's about what they're at. The issue is, and beyond that, let me explain a little bit more about the AI. The AI can do things like pick up weapons, heavy weapons, and attack your players and attack vehicles. Vehicles can attack players. AI vehicles can attack players as well on the ground, as well as in ships or in vehicles. They have searching behavior, all those sorts of things. There's a ton of stuff that they've done with the AI, which is specifically right now developed for Squadron, but then will be moved over to Star Citizen. And they said that they want to release that stuff into Star Citizen after 4.0. So I think that's the biggest issue. Later, trader. Can AI board a ship as well and use it? I believe so. I don't know if it's full in there. But if you haven't seen the AI demo from CitizenCon, go look it up. Because that'll give you an idea of what they've been working on this year. So yeah, Sheepy, basically that is likely to come into the game by 4.0. That seems to be the target for CIG, is that AI system in Star Citizen at 4.0. Which means maybe next year. Can confirm Polaris is on the progress tracker for next year between March and June, mid-June. If CIG manages the reality, manages to get that level of AI in the MMO portion of the game, there'll be nothing like it. Yeah, it's nuts, and that's just the behavior. That's the what do they call it? Subsumption AI. That's not even dealing with the virtual AI or the quanta AI, which are dumber but like simpler, but doesn't necessarily been released then. That's true. But I think the goal is for it to be released at 4.0, which makes sense because if you're going to release something like Pyro, you want something like that AI system in place to make it a little bit more dynamic and interesting. So this panel was not a panel; it was at the very end. It was the 2-hour-long talk with the 2-hour-long CitizenCon thing that everyone memed on because it was too long. Some people are going to be mad when they find out that most of the CitizenCon stuff was probably 2 years out, like in 4.03 or 4.04. It depends. Like for instance, Inferno, we know that the movement system, to be able to stop on a ladder, turn and jump to another ladder, and that whole like the parkour stuff, that's already being worked on. That's already being worked on in Star Citizen. It's being added to Star Citizen. So we know that was presented there, but it's going to be coming in sooner rather than later. We know that the quantum boost is probably going to come in sometime at the end of next year because it needs to get some of the other workarounds. So a lot of this stuff should be in the game next year, but it also depends on 4.0. Yes, I almost certainly will get master modes for 4.0. And from the sounds of the things that they did that the what was I trying to think? From the sounds of things, Master Modes is not finished. It still needs some iteration, but the basic version is done. So they need to have not programmer art. They need actual HUD elements to play and those sorts of things. So it's not coming out tomorrow, but it isn't coming out in 15 years. So off topic for more Flicks My Fleet, but the gameplay I want to do is medical, rescue, repair, security, personal fleet, Apollo, Crucible Liberator, F-7C Hornet. That seems fine. That's about right. Yeah, that seems fine. I'm trying to think about it in my Fix My Fleet brain. That seems fine. You only have one fighter, which is fine. You have the Apollo, which is probably the best ship for that. And you want to do rescue and repair, but you don't want to do mining. So there's be no point in buying a Galaxy. Crucible makes sense. Yeah, and Liberator makes sense because Liberator you want to do transport. So, and you'll be able to transport everything but your Crucible. Maybe not the Apollo. You'll be able to transport your Hornet in both, but I'd love to see a joke in 4.4, but that's for sure. That's good. It's fine. Solid for what you want to do. Can you talk about the lore of the system that has the black hole at center? Tamsa. Tamsa was discovered by a Banu, who gifted it to the UEE. It was named after Tamsa Wheel, who was a abstract artist who used mathematical algorithms to make art. Not in the way we use mathematical algorithms to make art now, but the idea of using an algorithm, running an algorithm's code and using that code as art. So she made all these really interesting geometric shapes for art. The explorer who founded the Banu Explorer was a big fan of her work, and so he named the system after her. The system has one gas giant with a couple moons around it, but it's currently protected under the Fair Chance Act, which allows it, which means that because it's a new system and there may be life on some of those moons, humanity cannot settle it until they can determine that there is or isn't life on the moons. No time dilation on the planets? I don't believe so, because it's too far away from the black hole. It's orbiting the black hole, but it's pretty far away. I was thinking like 12-tone music. I think something like that, yeah. Can't wait to see alien buildings. I bet the Banu make gorgeous outposts. I bet they do. They're very careful and meticulous in their attention to detail, so. They said that Master Modes was going to take a very long time to get into Star Citizen, just due to the time it will take to implement each ship, and they don't want to have it on some ships and not others. Yeah. But a very long time is many different things. I think almost certainly by 4.0. But 4.0 is not coming out until next year. Not next year, 2 years from now. So. Humanity here getting into Cold Wars because of terraforming. Yep. Yep. Looking forward to seeing Banu builders. Bang, bang, Banu, Banu. The key for that, though, for Master Modes, is if it's the issue is dealing it with the HUD elements, then they have to wait until the HUD elements are finished, which means we'll probably get Mobiglass before we get the Master Modes. So the new Mobiglass is probably more likely, because again, these are all building, steps. So you need to have this and this and this to be able to make this and so on and so forth. So. You think it's possible for 4.0 to happen in Q1 2024? Yes, I think that's the most likely outcome at this point is Q1. But as I always say, because someone's going to look at this video in 5 months and be like, Paul, you were wrong. It's like I probably was, because I didn't have all the information. Based off the current information, based off of what I see, that is what I'm expecting. It could be earlier or later. Really depends on what's going on at CIG. Well, the Polaris has a higher chance of getting into the game than the Idris. Yes, it does. It's because it's not really in Squadron. The Polaris isn't in Squadron. Because the Polaris was built after Squadron, the beginnings of Squadron, so. Gotta wonder where resource management, cargo factor, and quantum missions meet. The cargo, Parker? You just said it's the cargo missions? Because it's resource management, cargo refactor, and quantum missions are both. That's all has to do with cargo missions, like dynamic cargo missions. When do you think we'll have the persistent habs? Do you think CIG will sell apartments on RSI website? Yes and yes. They definitely will be selling apartments in-game, if not on the website. And persistent habs, I think they'll have persistent habs in probably post 4.0. It's not much of a priority. Ooh. So, to summarize before I finish up, because I'm yawning, next year is going to be this year, but more content. I am anticipating cargo missions. I am anticipating repair, extended salvage, and bounty hunting in some way, shape, or form to be making into the game next year. Those were priorities set forth by Chris Roberts in May. I assume those priorities are the same. We may see a drop in bounty because we haven't seen fucking anything from it. But we'll almost certainly see, because we've already started working on salvage and cargo, we're almost certain, and repair. So all three of those are certainly going to get more fleshed out in the coming new year, based off of everything they've been working on so far, unless they table and scrap everything they've been doing for the last year and go completely forward something different. Those seem to be on track to release next year. So while we won't see 4.0 until the very end of the year, almost certainly, we will for sure see a ton of new stuff get added in terms of gameplay format, but not really new as much as it's expanding on the current stuff that was added in 3.18. Also, happy Luminalia. My video is out there for those of you who didn't watch it. The one on Luminalia. Let's see details. I'll put this in the chat. Didn't know we were doing Copium this early in the day. It's only good when it's fresh. But yeah, there's the video. If you haven't seen the Luminalia video, make sure you do that. It's a nice little lore video on Luminalia, and remember to stay to the end for a special thing. So, yeah, I'm gonna head out. I will see you all tomorrow. We'll be doing a big stream. We're gonna be giving away a shit ton of ships. I mean, a shit ton of ships. So make sure you come and join us for that one. Yeah. We'll be starting at like 7 p.m. my time, so like 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be going for a very long time, so make sure you come in, hang out, watch the stream, be here to win some ships, and have a good time. We'll do Christmas themed stuff, but I will not be again live on Saturday or Sunday of this week, and then I'll be back after that. I'll be back on that week, probably another 2 days or so, and I won't be again live on that Saturday or Sunday of next week as well, because it's also a holiday. So, but like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Very flimmy.